what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter, I have a Greyhound.
Who the f is Kyle Cuthbertson? Doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney. Turney in the dirt.
Florida kart racers, you asked for it and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLKC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
Welcome to KC Premium coverage for the second round of the Stars Championship Series, the King of the Castle. The countdown of green at 20 seconds, and our KA Masters hit the racetrack. I will say, for the likes of John Bonanno on slick tires, and I believe a couple more in this field, looks like Caligaro, Kozak on slicks as well. But it's a little bit of a mix-up here in this race, Alex, for whether drivers decided to take the gamble, go on a slicks, or play it safe and run with wet weather tires.
Well, we're in that crossover period here, and from the intel that I've gathered from a couple of different people, it seems like at least a handful of the comp car drivers here out on the racetrack have elected to go onto the slick tire. The rest of them that I saw just now rolling through the dog leg of turn number 1 on reins. Nonetheless, your KA Masters pre-final starting grid. Clay Settles, Andy Kutcher, your front row. Behind them, Pierce Baldus and David Galonia.
Back to Anthony Stifler, Jacob Neary on row number 3, John Bonanno and Austin Queen on row number 4, Chris Horan, Chris Kutcher on row number 5.
Back to Mark Steele and Miguel Mir on road number 6. Behind them, Tyler Prestel, Todd Shambo, Laurent Mardan down in 15th alongside Evan Kozak.
On slick tires for Evan Kozak and Adamar Caligaro for SLA Racing. Starting alongside Paul Montopoli on row number 9. Paul Mees and Bo Amato on row number 10. Go back to your last couple of drivers that are getting set to take the green 30 plus here this weekend for KA Masters. Again, last couple of rows getting formed now, making their way to the back. Pre-final. Clay Settles has been strong. Andy Kutcher has kept him on his toes. And we'll see how it all plays out. A couple of other notables further back in the field. Sean Bailiff back there getting set to take the green flag. But we go into the tram lines and get set to take the lights. Here we go. Clay Settles, Andy Kutcher, KA Masters pre-final is green, and Settles with a good start on the inside. Pierce Baldus as well.
Well, here's where things get really sketchy for the drivers that are on slicks here. You don't really have any idea what the grip levels are like. You didn't really go out there for practice because KA Masters was the first group in warm-up, and only a couple of them really decided to hit the racetrack, and they were all on wets. So for John Bonanno on slicks and a couple other of the comp car drivers, this is their first actual bit of driving on slicks. What a move for Miguel Mir. And again, the inside line under braking on a wet racetrack, whether it's damp, wet, or even drying, tends to have a lot of grip under braking because you still want to brake slightly offline sometimes. So expect more moves like that, like what we saw from Miguel Mir on the inside, getting confident on the brakes and finding the grip early on.
Yeah, like Mark Steele, who's been struggling this weekend, kind of, saying he's been out of his element so far this weekend. He's on slick tires, making a gamble, looking to work his way through this field. Not sure how it's going there for Bonanno. It looks like Todd Shambo is now going through on him.
Well, this is expected, Caleb. I mean, when you're on slicks, right, first of all, you don't want to be the guy to throw it off the racetrack and ruin your chance at a good starting spot for the main. But two, naturally, the opening couple of laps, it's going to be spent trying to get heat back in the tire. So there's still 10.5 minutes left. The drivers on the wet weather tires, right now, their goal is to build a gap because you know that the track is probably dry enough to withstand the slick tire. It's just getting heat in them. So for John Bonanno and a couple other drivers that are on the slicks right now, their goal is not to fight drivers too much right now. Don't make any mistakes. The race will maybe come back to you here as long as you don't fall too far back.
Pierce Baldus challenged Clay Settles for the lead of the race there for a bit. Settles was able to go right back. More drivers starting to get into the mix. Stifler, Chris Horan on the Magic Kart, closing down. We go side by side for second. Stifler and Settles, and Baldus, Baldus able to stay ahead.
Side by side again, out of the green corner. Clay Settles holds on board the top kart machine, but now we have a 4-car battle for the lead. Up through the dog leg here down towards Cell Tower. Any moves to the inside? No, we're going to stay line of stern, single file through Cell Tower. Again, long race. You don't want to make any mistakes. You don't want to really damage your tire, hurt your tire too much because the track is still wet enough. There's enough damp spots on the racetrack that I think it won't, chunk up, as we call it, the rain tires, where you start to see the tire become more of an intermediate, more of a full slick level of tire. But let's see, where's the status report on the likes of John Bonanno? He's 5.5 back from your leader. He's in 12th. Last lap, a 146 flat, 141.9 for Pierce Baldus, who just got down the inside of Clay Settles into the final corner. Now they're down to the 127. So this is the first real lap that matters. Let's see it. Mardan up to 10th at a 126.1. He goes purple. John Bonanno a 129.3. So 3 seconds off right now on the slick tire. That's not bad. 8 minutes 50 to go in this one. I suspect that tire might come back to John Bonanno here. The only problem he has, he's 7 seconds back.
There we go, side by side. Galonia, Stifler fighting for the forward spot. Stifler, again, he lost the spot already. So it was Chris Horan's Magic Card who drops the tire into the grass. And Stifler brought right back into play.
And all this brings Miguel Mir into play as well behind Galonia. So now, with the likes of Chris Horan on the Magic Machine pulling away slightly from Stifler, you got to go further back. Galonia, Miguel Mir, we know he likes to be late on the brakes. He's going to go for it in the cell tower. A little bit uneasy on the brake zone there. I wonder if Miguel Mir was able to get around Galonia. He wasn't, so he's going to have to regroup through the double left here and try it again. He's going to go down the inside of Galonia, try to move him wide here through the right-hander. I wonder if Miguel Mir was able to make it through. Here's a look at John Bonanno on the slick tires behind Paul Matopoli. Looks a little better now, does the grip of the comp car here, Caleb.
Yeah, down in 14th, so I think we're going to start to see some moves, and indeed, there goes Bonanno looking into the skill house corner. Anything offline, I will say, is definitely going to be very tricky for Bonanno to navigate. But even then, you're starting to see that dry line start to form, and everybody's going to have eyes on the number 1 plate right now.
There it is, a 126.2. Only a second off of what the leaders are running, and that was with a pass on Paul Matopoli, and he's probably still taking it pretty easy right now. The number 1 plate, the reigning champ here at KA Masters, took a gamble. He's still taking that gamble, obviously, in the pre-final, and it's a risk, because right now he started inside your top 10. He's up to 12th now at the moment here, so for John Bonanno, right now the gamble hasn't paid off just yet, but it's coming back in his favor. Inside and through on Austin Queen, so too does Matopoli, but John Bonanno on board the comp car, it looks good. The gap now to the leaders, 8.1 seconds. At what point do we think that transition is going to fully happen? I think next lap, he might go out there and put a pretty good lap together. Look at that. Inside and through, and Andy Kutcher. It's looking easy now here, Caleb.
Yeah, it's time. I think it's going to be time for whatever class is next for Micro Swift, for the drivers looking, for the mechanics as well. They're all going to be switching over to slick tires.
Yeah, I'd love to get a shot of that.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think, the transition point from now on. They're all going to have eyes there on Bonanno because he's starting to cut his way up through the field. And again, next up for him, Austin Queen, I believe he was able to pass.
Yeah, so Tyler Prestol's next up the order here. As
one
cut around, Steele. Mark Steele on the back straight.
He's on slicks as well. Mark Steele's on slicks. But again, the bad luck for Steele continues here this weekend.
John Bonanno, 124.9, purple. Fastest driver on the racetrack. Pierce Baldus at a 125.2, but the rest of the top 10 is in the mid 25s to low 26s. So we're in that crossover point. The transition has happened. If you're on the grid for Micro Swift, I'd love to get a shot of any go-kart who didn't have slicks on already. They're probably frantically changing tires now. Laurentiu Mardan down the inside of Miguel Mir at this point in the race. He's on slicks. Yeah, so Laurentiu Mardan also on slicks. No surprise there for a driver that, first of all, started 15th in this pre-final. But we know Laurie loves to go out there and take gambles. We know he loves to go out there and make it fun and make a show out of it for us. And he's doing a good job on board the Techno Kart machine.
Yeah, Laurentiu Mardan, at the start of this lap, he was 7th. He just took the lead of the race. Laurentiu Mardan on slick tires, that's second. My apologies, Pierce Baldus is up the road. But Laurentiu Mardan is absolutely flying on the slick tire here, Alex.
Yeah, now look at that. John Bonanno around Tyler Prestol. It's now his turn to get around this group of go-karts here who I don't believe anybody else in this group is on slicks. I think the rest of them are on reins as Miguel Mir tried the inside of Clay Settles. Good crossover move for the top kart machine, and now through the final corner. Let's see what the lap times look like. Mardan, 123.3, purple. Bonanno, 122.7, purple. 6/10 quicker than Laurentiu Mardan, but obviously Mardan was passing about 5 go-karts in one lap to get that lap time. So through turn 2, and if you're John Bonanno, you're looking ahead. You're rubbing your hands together, but you're also thinking, man, I got to get around these guys quick if I want a chance at a win here in the pre-final. But he's not really thinking win. He's just thinking, let's finish towards the top 5, get a good starting spot for the main. Is around the outside of Colonia there under braking. Going to have way more grip into Showcase Corner.
What a gamble for John Bonanno, for Laurencio Mardan. They struggled the first couple laps in this race, but with 4 minutes to go, John Bonanno has more than enough time, I think, to get himself all through this pack of drivers here, Alex.
Yeah, through on Anthony Stifler. Here's Haran on Clay Settles. He's going to loop it around to the cell tower. Well, that's a free position there for Bonanno, for Stifler, and for the likes of Galonio there. And now Bonanno through the double left, trying to get a crossover there on the likes of Todd Shambo on the 255 machine. A great exit here for the one plate. And Bonanno down the inside of turn 16. He's through. John Bonanno inside the top 5. His sights are now set on Clay Settles, who's trying to get to the bumper now of Miguel Mir in front of him. Let's see what the gap is. Baldus to Mardan. Wow, Mardan was 1.7 seconds quicker than the Host City driver up front. The gap is now 1 second, first down to P2. Inside, potentially for Bonanno, thinks better of it.
Yeah, nothing yet for John Bonanno in a turn 1, but on the exit, makes it look easy. Bonanno up to 3rd now. Miguel Mir, the driver, up to, fourth. I'm all mixed up here, Alex. Mir's in 2nd for now. John Bonanno's in 3rd. They continue to fight. Here goes Bonanno. Over, under, up into 3rd.
And up front, we just got a glimpse of Mardan. There he goes, through. Laurent Mardan into the lead from 15th on the grid. What a run for Mardan and for Technokart. He's got to hold on for 2.5 minutes, but right now with the pace that Pierce Baldus has shown, I don't think he's going to have too much of a fight here. And at this point, he's got to be more concerned of the pace that John Bonanno will have on the closing laps here in this one, because the pace difference is about 2 seconds, and 4 seconds back to Bonanno. He'll get there most likely.
Those look like, I'm not sure, but whenever we saw on that low shot, those kind of look like wet weather tires there, Alex, for Laurencio Mardan. I'm not sure if he went for a used set, if that was the thought process behind it. But Bonanno just took the fastest lap of the race as we take a closer look.
Yeah.
And those look like wet tires.
Yeah. Okay,
for
so
Laurencio Mardan, but I will say they do look a little bit more worn out than anybody else's.
It must be, or he's just absolutely wheeling the thing. He could just be wheeling it completely, but I agree with you. I think it's got to be a set of scrubs here for Laurencio Mardan, which then bodes the question, right? At what point do these tires then start to fade? Does John Bonanno have a chance here at this one?
Rear tires are only 6 inches, but those look like they're stretched on a 7-inch rim, if I'm not mistaken. Is that accurate to say, Alex?
I'd have to agree with you here. Let me see. Let's get a good glimpse of Laurencio Mardan's go-kart here. Those are definitely rains, definitely wet weather tires. Most likely scrubs, just because of the lap time differential from Mardan to the rest of the field, who are also on rains. But you go back to Pierce Baldus, you get a good glimpse of maybe the rear tires of the Host CD machine as well. Didn't get a chance to really see it there, but through turn number 16 here, and again, I think you're pretty accurate there, Caleb.
That's, I think, kept us on our toes.
And that would
here,
make
right?
sense then. That would make sense. It would allow the go-kart to be a little bit freer. It would allow for more rotation. It would allow for more grip. And overall, again, that's what usually you lack in the rain, right? You lose the front and then you lose the rear. So you set it up to have a lot of front-end grip, and then the rear gets really sideways here on a go-kart. So for Laurencio Mardan, they've nailed it. But no one more than John Bonanno at a 120.3, by the way. Now 30 seconds on the clock. They're going to see 2 to go next time by. 2.2 to the lead at 1.4 a lap. He might get there.
Now I'm curious, right? Because we thought Mardan was on the slick tire, a used wet for him. I want to make sure about John Bonanno, but that looks like that looks 100% like a slick tire, and we're seeing the speed difference, right? A 120.3 for John Bonanno, lap by lap. So
Mark Steele, the next driver that I can see on screen is on slicks is Mark Steele at 16th at a 120.7. So 120.7 for Mark Steele, a 120.3 for John Bonanno.
Yeah, Evan Kozak has also been fast in this race. His last lap was a 122.4, but you know, he's been going fast. His best time of 121, so he's still significantly quicker than the quickest driver on the wet weather tire. This has kept us on our toes, Alex, and this battle for the lead, I'm sure, is going to keep us on our toes when we get that 2.6 in the air. This time by, 2 laps to go for 2 drivers who made a huge gamble here in this one. The likes of Lorenzo Mardan, the likes of John Bonanno, the reigning champ. And this is, I would say, a pre-final that makes or breaks your championship, that has shown a championship drive out of John Bonanno here this weekend, Al.
Well, it's races like this that go out there and win you championships, right? I mean, obviously the pre-final is not going to be as many points as, say, a main event will, but taking that gamble, you risk making a mistake. You miss being thrown off the racetrack. You risk a lot of things that could have cost John Bonanno. But in situations like this, the experience came into effect. You know, I bet the entire Kart team, John Bonanno, was analyzing the racetrack, analyzing what other drivers are doing, maybe using the data off of Chase Biscaglia and other go-karts on board the Kart machine. I know different teams, right? Macron Motorsports versus Timmy Tech, but they're parked next to each other, and again, just working together. The satellite team of Timmy Tech and Macron Motorsports, right? You still have that data from the Kart and probably used it to good effect there, as Mardan not afraid to get his elbows out, but you saw John Bonanno pointing at the surface. You know what it was?
I think he was pointing at the tires.
No,
maybe, yeah.
Well, yeah, that, and I bet he was also saying, "Listen, recognize I'm on the damper part of the racetrack here. I can't brake as hard as you. I might dive in. I might slide into you." As the 211 off the racetrack gets back in, gets it re-fired up there. Yeah, the 211.
That's a mono.
Yeah. So that was from 11th. From 11th, and I think he was on slicks. He's running a 120.5. So he's actually the fastest driver on the racetrack. Was Bo Amato. Besides Bonanno. So unfortunate there, because this race is going to maybe flip on its lid for him if he would have kept it on the racetrack.
Here's a couple of movers on slick tires, right? We saw Mark Steele fall down the order. He just went up another 2 spots, up to 13th. We talked about Caligaro, who was, you know, down the order. He's worked his way up to 12th. Kozak also on slicks. He's up to 11th. They just didn't have as good of luck or you know, kept it on the racetrack like Bonanno did throughout the early stages, which we expected to be very slick, very tricky on that slick tire. And again, as the race went on, as you know, you have what could be 25 other drivers on the wet tire. They're driving the racetrack for you and making the way for you to make moves. So, you know, it was a gamble for sure in the first couple laps. You have to hold on to it, but as the race progressed, I think it's showing, right? At this gamble, you know, with it, they hit the jackpot.
Yeah, John Bonanno, what a run. Fell back to outside the top 14, was 8 seconds back from the lead, hunted down your leader, Lorenzo Mardan, who also had a great run from 15th to 2nd. No one quicker, though, than the one plate. Checkered's out, Bonanno wins over Mardan. Further back, a pretty good scrap here for the fight for 3rd. I think it's going to be Baldus for Hotes TD here. He's going to cross the stripe to finish 3rd. But then a lot of fighting further back. Miguel Mir in 8th there, holding off Todd Shambo over Chris Horan. Let's see who's going to cross the stripe. Where does Evan Kozak end up for SLA Karting? He was on slick tires. He gets up to 12th as Mark Steele made a great drive on the final lap of the race to go from 12th to 8th. Kozak to 9th, Mir to 10th, Adamar Caligaro, Todd Shambo 12th, Andy Kutcher, Chris Horan, who started that lap in 9th, down in 14th. So a lot of chaos in the final lap. A chaotic pre-final as a whole here, Caleb, for KA Masters.
I mean, it kept us on our toes, right? We were confused, thought we knew what we were saying for a little bit, and then it changed when we saw Mardan was, you know, on the, I guess you want to call it quote-unquote intermediate tire, right? A scrub set of wet weather tires. But we talked about the transition point. That's always the hardest point to get to, the hardest point to find on making the right decision. We got there. We're there. Bonanno showed it. Slick tires from here on out. And we'll take a look back to it all as well with the last couple of results. Chris Kutcher, unfortunate DNF for him, down 7 laps. Andy Kutcher as well, who had a good showing yesterday. He's way down the order with a lot of work to do into the main event later on today. But that's your unofficial results for the KA Masters Pre-Final. What a race. And we'll take a look back at the action as well here, Alex.
And probably yeah, here was the last lap pass there, or 2 laps to go, sorry, for John Bonanno over Lorenzo Mardan. Points at the ground. I think he's pointing at his tires. I think you're right. Yeah. He's saying, listen, I'm not passing you here just because I'm feeling like you're on rain tires. I got slicks on. I'm going to pass you eventually. Just let me go through. No need to fight it too much here if you're Lorenzo Mardan. And already two drivers who had great runs, right? Bonanno started in 8th, Mardan in 15th.
Look at that.
And look at those tires. I mean, that is, again, if this was a 20-lap main, that would have been a full slick at this point. And that's the power of the I guess you could say, intermediate tire, right? Where if you break in a set of reins, you make them a scrub tire, they'll be a little bit more, they'll be a little bit better in a situation like that where the track is drying and is dry at this point. So for the sake of the Micro Swift drivers, I hope that everyone watched that race and switched from reins to slicks. Otherwise, your tires will look a lot like Laurent Mardan's just did.
I mean, these cadet carts aren't as wide as the Masters carts. So I hope, that you could go too wide sometimes with these on some of these lines. But that being said, just running you down your starting order. Jack Katowski went 2 for 2 yesterday with second place finishes. The 92 starting on the pole position alongside Slate Harrell. Mason Brody and Enzo Ramos on row number 2.
We go back to Dutch Westbrook and Brody Stoffel there at 6th. Aiden Go and Caden Cladera, row number 4. Back to Bryson Barnett, Grayson Knifick, Franco Schiavo, and Lennox Lockhart. Your 12 starters, top 12 starters there. Back to Samuel Chavalry, Bautista Pugliese, your top 7 rows.
Bo Stowers, Liam Compitiello on row number 8, Liam Francisco and Tristan Francisco, and all Francisco, row number 9. Spencer Height, Brody Algretta, your top 20 starters, your top 10 rows.
Back to the rest of the Micro Swift grid here from 21st down to 33rd. Austin Taylor, Zev Godchak, Andrew Anastasio, Michael Subaka, Jose Torres, Dominic Nagel down there at 26th after a chaotic heat number 2.
Two notables, Dominic Nagel, Zev Godchak with pace to be up at the front. Unfortunate incidents for them. Look for them to move up the field. Charlie Skripalski starting 27th alongside Grayson Wyatt. Trey Sanders and Lincoln Wiley, 29th and 30th on row 15. You go back to James Fox, Diesel Maxwell, and Liam Asalas, your 33 drivers here in your Micro Swift Pre-Final.
Nice and slow here for the Micro Swift class. And again, this class has been one of those classes where throughout the year, back in Charlotte, here at Newcastle, they're really good at being nice and slow all the way around the racetrack, and then they tend to jump the gun sometimes on actually putting the right foot down on the gas pedal. I know we had to go around one time yesterday during the heat races. Let's hope that they can get it first time by, because then here at the Stars Championship Series, like I've mentioned throughout the broadcasts this weekend, the second time around, if you miss the start, the officials can actually move you to row 3.
I'm going to start a counter with how many times you've told us that already this weekend.
I just want to make sure people know.
There you go.
Staying informative.
Hey, make sure you know your rules. Alex will be sure to inform you, and we'll be sure to get you racing here. Green flag in the air, lights are out, and we go racing. A fast start by everybody here in Micro Swift. That outside line, we've seen it not have the best of starts. Stoffel gets a good start from the outside, already up to 4th. Aiden Go. Westbrook, I believe, lost a couple of spots, but in the lead of it all, Slate Harrell gets there. Aiden Go around the outside, drops a tire into the grass.
Aiden Go, not the ideal start for him. Further back, that's Lennox Lockhart there, who actually had a great start, but then got held up by Dutch Westbrook, who almost stalled it out of turn number 2. But no one better at the starts this weekend than Slate Harrell. He started both heats yesterday in 12th. He got up to 2nd and 3rd at the end of turn number 2 through those heat races. He started row number 1 outside. He's up to P1 now. Behind him, like you said, the likes of Enzo Ramos. What a run for the 16 machine this weekend. Slowly, methodically worked his way through the heats. Played it smart. He finds himself now P2. Behind him, Brody Stoffel. What a great start for the 29 machine.
Yeah, good start on the outside for Brody to get himself up to 3rd, and again, he just found himself getting shuffled down the order at the race starts. A little bit yesterday, I should say. Can't say last night. Yesterday, and he got a much better one around the outside. Hung it all the way to the berm almost, and put himself up to 3rd, getting himself up to 2nd there, with help from Jack Katowski. They're gonna go right by, and Katowski gonna take advantage as well, going up to 2nd. He's clear.
Oh no, I believe that might be, is that Cladera there? No, the 38's up to 5th.
There.
So the 40 machine has spun it around there. That's one of the Sodi machines for Velocity Racing. you go down all the way to Grayson Knifick there in 26.
Grayson Knifick, there was the driver that we saw spun around, but we go back up to the lead of the race. Slate Harrell, again for him, put himself up at the front. Jack Katowski in second to Stoffel to Enzo Ramos. Your top four here. And a change for the lead.
Whoa.
Jack Katowski goes through, and a little bit of contact in between himself and Slate Harrell.
Well, if you're Caden Caldera, you're loving what you're seeing right now because Katowski going defensive through turns 14 and 15. A 4-car battle for the lead, and then it's back to the 38 of Caden Caldera. He's by himself, no one's there to help him. Bautista Pugliese has had a great start, up 8 spots, up to 6th. With Bryson Barnett up to 7th. They're about 4 seconds back from this lead group here, but again, if I'm Slate Harrell, if I'm Katowski, you want to work together. This is a long race, as close on the exit there, flirting with the outside line, and I don't think Slate really wanted to go, but Katowski forced his hand. Stoffel to P2 now, and pushing Harrell into the brake zone there, so elbows out early doors here in this one with 9 minutes to go.
Yeah, Harrell, it looked like gave it right back there, right in the last corner, and Stoffel just in the middle of it all in that second place. Caldera in 5th, looking to make some headway. Little update further back for some of the drivers we saw up at the front. Lockhart down in 17th. Taylor was involved in an incident as well yesterday. He's down in 18th. Gottschalk has made up a couple of spots. He's up to 12th now. Looks like Gottschalk's up 10 spots from the start of this race. Again, we talked earlier on who's going to be one of the notables, working his way through the field, already up to 12th.
Let's see now. Tires are getting back into a decent window here. The drivers are getting used to the surface, right? Because it's still not, you know, to the grip levels that they're used to from yesterday and into this morning's warm-up. But for a lot of these drivers, these 3 laps are going to be probably the 3 slickest laps they've driven all weekend long. It's only going to get better from here, but for Slate Harrell, it's looking pretty good. Stoffel ahead of Katowski. These 3 are pulling away slowly now from Enzo Ramos, and I think these 4 in general are starting to pull away a little bit from Caden Caldera. Further back, we have a couple more battles, but no battle more important than this one for the lead. Stoffel through, Katowski pushes them in.
Yeah, last time around, Katowski took advantage of that run and was able to go on Brody Stoffel, who's now at the helm. You saw there for a second some of the movers here so far. Dominic Nagel, another one that we talked about, he's up to 15. So that's a good showing for Dominic as well here in this race. A couple of drivers that lost a handful of spots. Mason Brody, he's a little bit ways down the order, fell back to 15th, I believe, lost about 12 plus.
Whoa.
And a little bit of love there for Katowski, who hits the rear wheel of the rear tire of Brody Stoffel, pops up into the air, but stays put for a second. And that just opened that gap up a little bit to Slate Harrell, who had to check up.
These top 3 are right now consistently the 3 quickest drivers on the racetrack, and I'd even include Enzo Ramos in that one as well, doing 1:21.6, matching the pace of Katowski, but there's not a whole lot of a need to go out there and be this aggressive this early on. You're risking, you know, pretty much a guaranteed top 5 finish if they just maintain this pace, because the rest of the field down to Aiden Go in 6th is 6 seconds back from these 4. Speaking of Aiden Go, that's a pretty good battle he's got going on between himself, Westbrook, and Chivalry there for 6th, 7th, and 8th as well.
I was looking at it this way, right? Pre-finals are huge for what it can do to, you know, your main event, especially when you have 30 plus on the racetrack, 33 drivers here this weekend. And here's the movers. Zev Gottschalk, Dominic Nagel found each other on the racetrack, working their way through, already into the top 10 for Zev Gottschalk. How about that? Looks like they just got past Schiavo in the 37. So Zev Gottschalk, again, we talked about his brother Win earlier on today, but this kiddo, I believe, only 7 years old, one of the younger drivers in this field. He's putting on an overtaking clinic here today.
Yeah, Zev Gottschalk has just played his cards perfectly at this point in the race. I mean, a great start, got around some of the chaos that happened out of the dog leg and out of the first hairpin, and from there, he's been quick. And the 2 Bennecks in general have been fast, right? Dominic Nagel and Zev were inside the top 10, top 5 throughout some of the heats yesterday, but again, the chaotic heat number 2 is the reason why they had to start so far back here in this pre-final. But from there, the pace is there for these two Bennicks. I mean, lap time-wise, they're up there with some of the quickest drivers on the racetrack. No one quicker than Brody Stoffel. But look at this gaggle of go-karts behind these two Bennicks. You go from Zev and Nagel down to Schiavo, Pugliese, Mason Brody, Bryson Barnett, and then down to Lennox Lockhart, who fell all the way back to 17th at his lowest here in this race. He's now back to the bumper of the 72 machine of Mason Brody here. So this is a battle for 14th for number 14. Down the inside here through the dog leg. Brody's going to give him space, let him through here under braking into turn number 2 for Lennox Lockhart. His charge back to the field starts now with about 5 minutes to go plus 2 laps.
Yeah, Schiavo just fell back to 12th. Pugliese's in 11th. That puts Lockhart 13th with that pass that he made on Mason Brody. So again, making good headway throughout the field. And again, these are the drivers that we saw up at the front in that first heat race here in Micro Swift. Lockhart was actually the winner of the first heat race. And now he puts himself in really good position here, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those situations where he had a good start, then I think had a moment out of the shark fin there, which put him back to 17th. Now he's driving back to the field, gets around the likes of Franco Schiavo. That's for 12th. Here's a pass, or a kind of pass.
Wow.
Dutch Westbrook on Caden Cladera, and using a bit of elbow grease there to get through.
Yeah, Dutch Westbrook, that's going to put him up to 4th. It looks like Ramos is the driver right behind him. Or mistaken, Aiden Go's the driver right behind him. All the Paralympians have very similar helmets. As there goes Aiden Go, now looking on the inside of turn 1. And again, everything on that inside line, depending on how low you go, it's still very slick down there, Alex.
How low will Aiden go? Low enough to get around Dutch Westbrook. I had to do it once. All right, 3.5 minutes plus 2 laps to go here in this Micro Swift Pre-Final, and that was the move for 5th. But I wonder if that move, Caleb, on Dutch Westbrook on Cladera might draw the eye of the official. I mean, part of it, there's a little bit more of a leeway when the track's pretty damp here. So we're going to replay of that move. Cladera given the signal, let's work together. Westbrook ignores it completely down the inside, and I mean, Westbrook was going for the corner. I don't think there's a whole lot of understeer on board that Bennett machine. Cladera turns in. I don't want to be in the officials' room right now. And again, in this situation, Westbrook's.
That's close. That's close.
It's touch and go because Westbrook, to be fair to Westbrook here, he's almost claimed the corner, right? He's on the inside. Cladera turns in. But yeah, that contact does send Cladera wide here. So it's one of the situations where I'd see both arguments.
Yeah, I'll let the race officials do their job, decide with that however they like. That's close, right? But here goes Westbrook making another move on Aiden Go. Clear even before the corner. He's able to get clear. And again, we talked about Captain America yesterday. He's been great, superb in qualifying. We talked about, he was great in the morning, great a couple weeks ago, and he was great yesterday. He's been making some moves, trying to keep himself up front. But again, the race starts have been the biggest struggle point for that for any driver starting on that front row. We looked at Katowski today, the leaders, especially in the Swift categories, right? We've seen the leaders kind of fall back, especially in the first couple of opening corners, Alex.
Yeah, well, it's a tricky racetrack going the clockwise direction to get the starts right? Because it favors the inside row quite heavily. If you miss timing on the outside lane, oftentimes if you start 4th, 6th, 8th, you enter the brake zone in 10th or 12th, right? And then from there, there's a bit of frustration from the outside lane. They charge in too hard, and that's when you see the 2, 3, 4 wide situations entering the shark fin corner. And obviously, Caleb, you've driven this racetrack. The shark fin can fit 1 to 2 go-karts, more than that.
I've crashed there actually before, trying to go too wide. So it's a tough one to make moves in, as we've seen so far this weekend.
Yeah, well, there's a move from Mason Brody defending, from the 24 machine of Austin Taylor there. So this battle will continue to rage on. In front of Brody is Bautista Pugliese, and in front of them, Lennox Lockhart on the Sodi. He was catching up to Zev and Dominic Nagel, but now the two Bennetts have hooked up, and they're working together and putting blistering lap times together. Look at that. Brody and Austin Taylor through on Pugliese. Here's the fight for the lead. Brody, Stoffel, and Slate Harrell, they've done a great job working together. They've created a 1-second buffer now to Jack Katowski. So with 40 seconds plus 2 laps to go. At what point do you think Slate's going to go for the move here?
Well, I got to look back, right, to a couple of weeks ago, even a month ago, to black flag for the 77. That's Astalis. Liam Astalis, I believe, is the name there for the 77, the 30 getting black flag, and I think that's because the leaders are starting to close in. And going back to the point that I was making, right, I look back to, you know, a month ago when we were at Trackhouse Motorplex for the United States Pro Kart Series, and these two kiddos were up at the front. You know, it was Stoffel in the lead, Harrow in second, or you could reverse the roles as well. I believe Harrow was in the lead and Stoffel was in second for a good amount of time, but you know, these two kids worked flawlessly together, pushing each other along, no passes in between the two, showing their respect, and kind of realizing, right, that they need to push together, that they need to get away from the rest of the pack to make it a mano-a-mano battle all the way throughout the race. So with the 2-6 in the air, you know, I would really see it when the white flag comes out, and that's obviously depending on when Slate Harrell wants to go ahead and take control of this race.
Last time by, they were 4 tenths quicker than Jack Katowski, so that lead grew to 1.5 seconds. And the larger the buffer you create, the more enticing it is to fight earlier than you maybe need to. Stoffel looks over his shoulder, sees Slate Harrell on his bumper through Cell Tower. I think this answers your question. If you don't go for the move in Cell Tower at this point, you're probably waiting for that white flag, like you mentioned. So through the double left here, Slate Harrell just kind of, you know, stalking his prey a little bit, right? Seeing where Brody's quicker, where he's quicker than Brody. Through that section, I got to say, Brody looks to be a little bit quicker in the final couple of corners here. Yeah,
Stoffel was really quick there going into the scale house corner on that right-hander. And, again, he's been extending the gap here. What brings Slate Harrell right back into play is this straightaway. And I think we're going to see it again. For Harrell, if he wants to take a pole position here this weekend, it's going to be the move now into turn 1, because we've seen Stoffel's pace throughout the infield section. Harrell's not going to be close, and even then, not going to help him out at all, because Stoffel's going to fade to the middle of the racetrack. Went a little wide there for Stoffel. He still holds on to it, but the fight's definitely on here for the pole position and for the win in the pre-final. We're going to go side by side into scoreboard. Harrell sets up the over-under, gets the inside. Slate Harrell's clear, and right back to him. Brody Stoffel retakes it.
Wow, way to clear him out of showcase as well. So through the green corner now, Stoffel low, Slate goes high. And now on the exit, does Slate clear him before the dog leg? He's going to try Stoffel on the curbing there. And yeah, Slate Harrell clears him. Through Cell Tower, Slate goes low, reopens up for the corner. And all this fighting, Caleb, here comes Jack Katowski.
Yeah, the biggest thing, right, about not fighting with 2 to go was not making Jack Katowski a factor here in this race. And even then, we've seen how important it is to start on the inside for the main event. But here we go. Stoffel going to fend low to keep Jack Katowski at bay, and I think that's going to give Slate Harrell enough breathing room here in this one, Alex.
Through the final 2 corners, here comes Slate Harrell. Stoffel going low in the final corner. Not enough for Katowski, who almost got a run to the checkered flag, but no one quicker than Harrell. Stoffel, Katowski, your top 3. You got to wait quite a ways to find Dutch Westbrook. Potentially no. Aiden, go. Gets around Westbrook and Ramos in the final lap to go to 4th. Over Westbrook, Ramos, Godchalk to 7th. Lockhart sneaks his way to 8th there over Samuel Chavalry. Caden Cladera, Dominic Nagel there got split up with his teammate Zev Godchalk on the final lap. That was a chaotic battle from 7th down to 11th there, which saw Zev Godchalk leading the way over that train. Further back to 12th, you go to Liam Francisco, Bautista Pugliese, Mason Brody, Austin Taylor, your top 15 drivers. Wow, a lot to unpack there, Caleb, in that Micro Swift race. I can't wait for the main event, because I think we have a couple of different factors, right? You have Slate Harrell, who entered the weekend a point behind Lennox Lockhart in the championship. Now, the way this weekend's unfolded, I got to say, it looks like Slate right now is entering this main event as probably the points leader in Micro Swift. Dutch Westbrook was also a major factor in that championship as well. And then down to Lennox Lockhart, who came in as the points leader. But with a DNF in heat number 2, it's not great for points. So he's going to have to do a lot more here in this main. But there's a lot of drivers, down to Dominic Nagel probably, who had the pace yesterday to go out there and get a top 5, a top 3 in those heat races, down in 11th here in the pre-final. So that main is going to be pretty interesting. A lot of heavy hitters scattered throughout the grid.
Yeah, going to be something to watch, right? We talked about Mason Brody. He fell back 11 spots. That's just all due to the start of the race. That's really make or break, right? we always talk that and say that you can't win the race in the first corner, but you can certainly lose it there. Alex, as our Pro and Rok Masters get set to hit the racetrack. Pro and Super Masters get ready to head out, and Jordan Musser has been strong all weekend long. We looked at the drive up the field he had yesterday. Musser is going to look to solidify a pole position, and again, we've seen Scott Presti, a DNF for him, not the best start. He's going to have to work his way through the field here.
Well, Jordan Musser, you got to remember yesterday, had issues in qualifying. The airbox fell off, had to drive his way through the heat races. It puts up P1 for the starting order.
Pro Masters, Pro Super Masters, pre-final action on tap here. Kayla Vieska has exited to give you guys more intel with Haley Donaldson down on pit lane. She's been getting some great grid shots already of another wet start to a day for this week of the Stars Championship Series King of the Castle here, Alex. But one driver who has had no issue with any of the conditions to this point is the man who's had to drive from the back in the two heats yesterday to put himself on pole, Jordan Musser.
Yeah, it's not good news for the rest of the Masters grid, because at least we knew the pace was great for Jordan Musser. It made it fun for us to watch, but with the about 7/10 advantage he had through both heat races lap to lap, expect more of that from Jordan Musser so far this weekend into the Sunday main later on this afternoon. But alongside him, Tim Hollowell on the front row. He had a great battle with Evan Batt in that second heat race. He's back there on row number 2 and 3rd alongside Robert Fiege, Ryan Franke, Jake Vedder, row 3. Back to the number 1 plate of Matt Pacheco and more as the drivers get ready to make their way to their start box to start their free final. And this is where things get a little bit interesting, because we know the inside lane is not ideal, but when the track becomes what we call a green racetrack, the rubber gets washed off. Really, both sides are not ideal right now. Probably Musser's still not in the greatest spot. I think Hollowell's got the advantage here on the whole shot, but it's different.
It will be interesting to see who ends up better off as Christian Marsh gives the command for the drivers to get into first gear, grab that clutch lever, and pay attention to the Track Systems North America lights. To the red lights we go for the pre-final, and it's a decent getaway for Jordan Musser, but Tim Hollowell was almost even till the dog leg. He'll at least slot into second off of that decent launch, and it'll be Evan Batt putting pressure on him there in third. A good launch for Robert Fiege. He'll go to fourth. Jake Vedder looks like he's slotted to fifth. And the tiptoeing continues. Reports from down on pit lane from Haley were saying, and you can see it on the release, a couple of drivers did opt for wets, but the majority of the field now are on slicks. And that'll be tricky as they're side by side in the opening couple laps, like right here, because it's still damp offline. No problems though for Bat. He'll go to second.
Evan Bat to P2, Jake Feder in fourth. Feder was a driver that didn't have a great day yesterday. I mean, he qualified out to the top 10, had pretty decent pace throughout the heat races. It puts him fourth now here for this pre-final, all over the bumper of Hollowell, struggling with the rear early on in this one. And again, part of the difficulties that these drivers are going to be facing here, Xander, is again, slicks, they're used to it, right? Most drivers didn't elect to go out for warm-up today. I mean, a lot of these guys, you know, they want to get their rest. They want to, you know, make sure they have as much breakfast in them as possible. And they didn't want to get their kart wet. They didn't want to get their suit wet. And so now, for the pre-final, it's a track they're not familiar with. It's as wet as it's been all weekend long. They're on slicks, but the grip levels are probably the lowest they've seen since Friday morning.
100%, Alex. I mean, at this point, there was nothing really that I think anyone was able to gain from that warm-up session for how the track is right now. Slick tires, mostly dry on the racing line, but a lot of wet patches offline, and it's going to change lap by lap, especially with the stickier compound of the two options used across the class structure, the MG Yellows for the shifters, the OKN Stars, but the MG Reds for the juniors and all of the other support divisions. And so for that, it's not going to lay down as much as these will. These are also the heaviest karts on the Stars Championship Series, with the Masters having a slightly higher minimum weight than the Pro Division, and with the 6-speed 45-plus horsepower KZ gearboxes on the things as well. That's going to really drive some heat into the asphalt. It's still overcast. It's still relatively cool, but we're pushing up to the 70-degree marker now, and that will, again, help rapidly elevate the track drying process. But for Jordan Musser, he's not necessarily the blind leading the blind, but definitely having to be the first one through the wall and figure it out, and that's kept everybody close enough to do that, to try to bring the fight to him. Evan Bat was not quite brave enough on the brakes there to get fully alongside. He had to bail, and that stacked them back up again. Scott Presti even got alongside Jake Feder, but look how close they are even behind him, closer than most of the field's been this weekend. Presti this time pulls the pin. He'll get fourth away. And then it's going to be Robert Feige back to 6. Ryan Franks on his bumper. Matt Machiko, the reigning champ, is there. It has been a weekend that's left a lot to be desired for the number 1 plate back in 8th. He's up to 7th now on that Magic card, having gone by Ryan Frank. And we'll keep tabs on him and Presti as those two appear to be on the move early. Robert Feige did go purple the last lap around. He might be able to get something on Feder if the comp cart can't go a little faster here in the final sector.
Yeah, with Jordan Muster, the pace we saw yesterday, you'd think he would have begun to start pulling away here, but for Jordan Muster, opening couple of corners in this racetrack, that PSL Braille art tends to shine. But Evan Bat's been quick through the middle and third sector of the racetrack. I'd love to get a replay of the half-pass attempt we saw last lap from Evan Bat. I don't think he actually meant to do that. I believe Hollowell actually got the bumper of him through the dog leg, and under braking, it really rotated the go-kart, and Evan Bat was kind of forced to try a move on Jordan Muster. Nonetheless, Evan Bat's been quick so far. Scott Presti's quick as well, but again, purple for Evan Bat last time by. We're in the 109 second bracket now. We're still nowhere near. We're getting closer now to the lap times we saw yesterday during the heat races, but the track is starting to dry up more and more. It makes you wonder if Muster's taking it easy, because like you said, first guy to hit every single corner. You don't really know if this racetrack's getting, drier by the minute. And this track's also known for, Xander, drivers going off the track, putting dust on the racetrack. It's tough to lead around this place.
It is. I mean, again, you do have those wide red exit curbs, but not only now is that going past that in the dry and hitting the grass and bringing the grass on a factor, but you can see the buildup on those exit curbs as well. They're going to hold water in the divots. So if anyone else goes a little bit wider that hasn't necessarily been driven over consistently and had some water still lingering in it, well, that could bring a little bit of dampness back up onto the circuit for the next driver to go. But indeed, Alex, this track is changing by the minute. A big send here for Presti for third as we keep an eye on him. And there, I don't know. I mean, it looked like more so he kind of got out of shape. Maybe Hollowell did have him jacked up a bit, but I think just as much, Evan had the rears lock up on him more than he anticipated. That was a heck of a save by the Factory Fury GP car driver. But either way, a good heads-up move by him. Jordan Muster gave him just enough space to gather it up, but not go on by him, and we stay with the order as they run. Jordan Musser, Evan Batt. Now it is Scott Presti up to third, and in terms of times changing, I mean, they were at the 110s on the opening lap. Then they got to the high 109s. The last lap, a 109 flat for Musser and a 108.86 for Scott Presti. This place is quickly picking up speed, and you're going to have to push the limits every time you hit a corner. Every one of these 19 corners, you got to remember what you did the last lap and just go 10% more this time, whether that's brake a little bit later, roll a little more speed, or pick up the throttle a little bit sooner, because if you don't, the driver behind is going to be able to, and he'll be closing up on you quickly. As we saw Presti right there really close up to Batt. He's on the bumper. Let's see if he tries to go here in the shark fin. He's going to look and then realize it's still super dark on the inside lane there. That might be one of the last spots to dry just because of the banking shifting all the water downwards.
This is where things get interesting, right? Because like you said, these drivers know the track's drying. They see it on their micron. The times are going lower and lower. The confidence builds up, and that's when things get dicey because you get more and more confident, and that's where mistakes start to boil up. So through cell tower here, Presti, again, electing not to go for the move. The last 2 laps, he's been the purple man, a 108.6, 2.5 tenths clear of Evan Batt, 2 tenths clear of Jordan Musser last time by. But if you're Scott Presti, you're watching Jordan Musser start to really put his foot in the dirt now, start to slowly extend that advantage over Evan Batt. And at this stage in the race, it's safe to say that Musser has the advantage over the Factory Fury machine. So if you're Scott Presti, if you're Presti Racing, you want to go out there and make this move stick as soon as possible here. 5 minutes to go, plus 2 laps in the session. The top 3 all running a 108.7 last time by. They're all quick in different parts of the racetrack. Musser seems to be stronger on the higher speed sections of the racetrack. Presti quicker in the lower speeds. Evan Batt quicker in the mid sections of the racetrack. So it's just all playing into each of their hands, and none of them able to capitalize.
I don't know. Let's see this time if Presti can. He almost got there. Evan's going to go a little wide. Maybe in the green corner here, still right on him. No, Batt will cover, and so nothing yet. But I will say as well, going on the different strengths and weaknesses, nobody to me looks more comfortable under braking than the man in third. He's been able to really close up on the drivers in front of him going into the major brake zones on this racetrack, especially down at turn 1, going into the shark fin with the off-camber banking kind of being halfway up in the air, sideways. He's able to go a little bit deeper. And now even you can see into the 90, he had a little look at it. I think Evan Batt's got maybe a bit more rear brake bias. They are able to adjust that down by their left knee. Most drivers are able to have a little dial to dial more front brake percent in or less front brake percent. And if you're wanting to make an aggressive pass, you'll dial some more front in. Let's see if he can go here. He's going to send it, and again, just barely. Couldn't quite get deep enough as he locked it up to get off and make sure there was no contact.
This is where frustration starts to build up. And again, look at the braking on Scott Presti into the shark fin corner, out of turn 4, into showcase. Do we see a late lunge? No, and it's just tricky. I mean, if you're Evan Batt at this point in the race, you know the pace is not there to get up to Musser, so why not defend for P2? And in the shifter category, you know you can rock that diamond line and make it work pretty good around this racetrack. And again, most brake zones are hairpin style corners, so through cell tower here, Evan Batt could go low if he wanted to. And again, that sort of line from Evan Batt, it makes the guy in third. It makes Scott Presti be undecisive in the brakes because you know that he's going to dive low, and you don't want to have contact because immediately we saw it yesterday with I believe, Machiko there, where the left front spindle just broke in that first heat race.
Yeah, you've got to get past his rear tire, both for the sake of the marshals saying that you deserved a right to get the apex, but also any contact tire to tire is going to lose all your steering ability, especially if it's with your front. We've seen that plenty of times down at turn 2 this weekend, where drivers will try and send right here. They'll touch the rear tire of the kart they're passing, and the passing car will go straight off to the exit, basically almost pointed at the cell tower corner. And now he's getting a little bit more aggressive, a little love tap there going into the shark fin to remind Evan that he's there. Maybe get him out of shape, and then here, finally, able to get the job done. He worked on him, worked on it, and finally he was able to get the bite out of the shark fin to pull the trigger there in turn number 6. That was a slick move, and at the same point, the next driver on the move, it appears, will be 5th. Matt Machiko already, actually, has gone by Tim Hollowell into 4th. He got by Robert Fiege a couple laps ago, and the reigning series champ is starting to get up to the front where it matters the most. The pre-finals pay double the points of the heats. The final is double the points of the pre-final. And that's what champions do. They always are able to appear and perform when it counts.
We saw John Bonanno do it in the pre-final. Loaded up the slick tires from P12 on the grid, went to P1 moments ago. And again, reigning champ in KA Masters, now the reigning champ here in the Masters shifter category, making it work. And pace-wise, was quicker than Muster last time by. Now a 108.8 was a little bit slower than Muster. No one quicker than the Scott Presti, or at least relatively the same. So Presti now, the shackles have been unleashed on the Mad Croc Promotions machine, and he's matching Muster's pace. The only problem for Presti is the gap's 1.8 seconds with a minute to go.
And that gap has only been lengthening over the last few laps while we focused on those two for second. Evan Batt, in a similar way to Robert Fiege, the GP carts rolled out quick. Now they're starting to fade. Machiko is already there. He could almost go right there in the cell tower corner. Not quite, but he is going to be ready to pounce, and so will potentially Fiege maybe on Hollowell. Hollowell's faded back towards him, but all of this, like you said, behind Muster, now behind Presti. Let's see if Machiko goes here. His Bat looked like he struggled getting out of the horseshoe, and that'll be easily done. Matt Machiko into third here in this 4-car pack.
Yeah, well, Robert Fiege has been quietly one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack the last couple of laps. I mean, he matched Muster's pace this time around. Now Presti went purple 108.2. Look at this, side by side, through the dog leg further back, and Fiege through on Evan Batt there. Evan Batt just lost 2 spots there, one to Tim Hollowell and one to Robert Fiege. So Evan Batt really starting to struggle now with his go-kart.
Could be a myriad of factors here for Evan Batt, but indeed it looks like he is really just having the toughest time getting up through the gears coming out of any of the really slow corners. I mean, you saw him lose time more so out of turn 4, out of turn 6. Now he's going to have to deal with Jake Fetter here in just a moment. Fetter's already on his heels. That'll be for the 6th position. Hollowell still will have to deal with Fiege, but yeah, Fetter on by. And whatever is the issue for Evan Batt, it is not going away. He's got Frank Runco and Ryan Frank next up. Ryan Frank's actually only a second back, so that'll be close. This has now become the fight for 4th here between Hollowell and Robert Fiege.
I don't think it's going down to 2nd for Evan Batt. I'm looking at him through the slower corners, and it looks really, slow. Through these tighter corners. Once it gets up to speed for Evan Batt, it looks pretty good. I don't think it's dropping down the 2nd or 1st for him.
Whatever it is, the horsepower definitely doesn't look good altogether. I mean, just down the straights and rolling through the corners here. You even see Fiege there start to lose a little bit, both coming onto the straightaway and even running out of I-70. I mean, it just doesn't look like it has the giddy up and go launch that a shifter kart normally would. Side note as well, folks, of course, this is a split division. There's actually a heck of a fight going on in Supermasters here with 2 to go. Jordan Musser continuing to command the field, but 18 seconds back, Morn Van Talk and Lance Lane are together, and those two have been in lockstep for a lot of this race. Last time by Lance lost a little bit, and I think they might have traded positions. So while Musser leads the overall Masters class, the Supermasters drivers for 45 or maybe 50 and over back there in 10th and 11th overall, and then 3rd in the class as well. Osley Cheek is only 2 seconds back from these two. Morn leading Lance around. Last time by, Morn had a little bit of the edge on him. He was ending up back 1 spot from his original grid, but these two might have a nice little duke it out battle on the final lap of the pre-final, although I think both of them, if you can just by the eye test there compared to Jordan Musser, are taking things a little bit easier.
Yeah, well, lap time wise, they're putting out some solid laps here. They're in the mid to low 109s. I mean, they're a second off what Musser did last time by. And again, these guys, what is it? Supermasters is 55 and over there, Xander?
I don't believe it's that high. I believe either it's only 15 years up from the regular Masters class, so it's either going to be 45 and over or 50 and over. And I'll double check that. Apologies for not knowing that off the rip for them. However, the subcategory is denoted for those watching along at home by the 500 digits, and the 600s are the regular Masters classes. So while we pull that up just to confirm, yes, 30 and over for Masters, 45 and over for Supermasters. And last second fight here for 4th will continue in the regular Masters class, but the lead has been locked down. Jordan Musser, flag to flag in the pre-final. Scott Presti will be 2nd, Matt Machiko 3rd, 4th, Hollowell versus Fiege versus Fetter, and at the line it will stay the same for those 3. Let's see what Supermasters does as they're just now getting out of the horseshoe They'll be headed to the loop now. It looks like it will stay to Morn Van Tuck. There he goes. He'll hang on over Lance Lane in the subcategory. Osley Cheek will end third. Bradley Danoff will end in fourth. And Hugh Templeman will be scored fifth. The only driver to DNF from Masters, Kelly Johnson, went out on lap number 6. Otherwise, clean from start to finish. It's slick tires, but it's definitely not grippy conditions. It is going to be tricky out there for these juniors, and we're ready to let them loose. 2 pre-finals back-to-back here for the schedule lineup with KA Junior first up. Well, KA Junior's A pre-final actually rolls a bit earlier. The B pre-final will run towards the latter half of the pre-final rotation. These drivers on screen, these are the front overall competitors from the qualifying and heat races yesterday. They were split in 2 groups, so half of them have not raced the others since, or maybe even been on track with the other group, if at all, since the warm-up groups and practice groups on Friday. So this is really the meeting of the top talent in the KA Junior class. A sold-out field of 60 has a massive turnout. In fact, I think we're a bit above that cut at a potential lock at 70 with 63 on the list. It would be a record high if so, and that'll put a 33-driver B pre-final, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 30-driver A pre-final. This is the fight for the first 30 spots on the main event grid. The final 10 will be decided after the KA Stars A pre-final. That'll the B pre-finals for KA Junior and KA Stars will be the last 2 sessions we have in this morning rotation. So 3 regular pre-mains coming up, full houses in each, 30 plus for Swift Stars, 30 in KA Junior and KA Stars, and then we'll have approximately 20 to 30 between the KA Junior field that's slightly larger and the KA Senior field, or KA Stars field, but both of them will see the back of the grid have their weekends end right before lunch for the hardworking crew and our hardworking team as well. So let's run you through it as they roll onto the racetrack. The A pre-final for KA Junior, Travis Pettit and John Antonino on the front row, and Isaac Malcutt worked with Pettit really well to put the 2 of them as the top qualifiers. They'll now be lined up first and third with Tristan Murphy lining up in the 4th spot.
Further back to Oliver Najber and Max Weiland on row number 3. Back to the row of the Nathans, Nate Golseth and Nate Dupuis.
Those 2 have been side by side all weekend long. Cole Medeiros and Ben Abernathy complete your top 10. A couple of rookies back on row number 6. Parker Ives on the inside for RPM. Darren Kidd on the outside. 1 driver slowing. That is your pole sitter, Travis Pettit, slowing out of turn number 2. And it is starting to maybe get a little bit wet out there again. While they were all released on slick tires, this could get very interesting in a hurry. Another one is off out of turn number 5 and 6. And indeed, look at the wall of moisture and rain that could be headed our way here, folks.
Oh, boy.
There is a lot to talk about. Caleb, what do you have for us down on pit lane?
Thank you, Xander. I've been standing by on the grid so far here today, and the mist has picked up over the last 5 minutes. So this racetrack, all the progression we've made, we're going backwards now.
That right there tells the story alone, folks. The moisture that is continuing to build here at Newcastle Motorsports Park. We thought we were getting rid of it. We may not be. This may be a little bit more tricky than what the drivers were hoping it would be, having watched those Shifter Masters navigate the place nicely in their pre-final. So KA Junior, the A pre-final, again, 30 starters all the way back to Landon Boer and Meyer Lewis, who were the final 2 above the cut line to be guaranteed to race this afternoon in the main event. This is a bit of a safety net type of session. Unfortunately, Travis Pettit, with the spin or whatever hiccup it was on the outlap, is trying to hustle back to his spot. It may be after the commitment line. That could be a looming penalty, but he's going to get into his spot as the field will graciously let him get to the lead. And will that give us the green? It will. We will go racing down to turn number 2 in a spread out field. Hopefully means that we'll get them all through the corner, but no, Antonino, no grip at all, goes up off the banking and into the grass, and the OKN Junior Superstar and the driver who started on the outside of the front row is off, and there's more off. Oliver Najbert's around in the infield of the shark fin. The rain is picking up, and they're all on slick tires. A tiptoe opening lap is going to be sketchy as they all try to stay on the dark stuff.
At this point, you're just watching the people in front of you break, and you're breaking earlier than them. Nate Dupuy off the racetrack, and that's an uphill battle to get back onto the racetrack for Nate Dogg. He'll have to get out and push that go-kart. But again, Sam Tutwiler out. He's having to drag his go-kart out of the weeds there in turn 1. And Travis Pettit away and clear in front of the field, ahead of Malkwit, ahead of Tristan Murphy. Benham Abernathy, what a run through. He's had from 9th up to 5th at the moment, whiling through on Murphy, and now at this point it's a tiptoe, Xander. They're just crawling around the racetrack.
Yeah, they are at a very slow pace now, and if it picks up to an unsafe level, the officials will call the session, but they have given the green, and they are able to race right now. It's until the rain gets heavier, but Travis Pettit is doing everything he can to get some heat in the tires. A big lead back to Isaac Malcutt. Then Tristan Murphy, Max Weiland, Benham Abernathy is now up to 5th. Derek Wargo is up to 6th behind him. And then it's going to be Cole Medeiros. You can see the back ends all twisting and going sideways as they hunt for grip here. Lap 1 coming to a close in a crazy A pre-final for KA Junior. Travis Pettit's your leader as they cross the line.
Well, red flag's
there
out.
it is. So before we could even get going, red's out and the officials making the call. It is now going to be too damp for the KA Junior A pre-final. That will set the day back a little bit, and we'll wait to hear further instruction. I imagine what they will do as Travis Pettit rolls around the shark fin is probably send them into the pit lane right as they were released. And the heavens have opened here again in Newcastle on main event Sunday. So what a turn of events here for the KA100 juniors. You can see the rain on your screen and the crowd beginning to clear back out and look for shelter to stay dry.
Yeah, it's raining pretty good now. At first we couldn't really tell because the cameras are so good, but it's raining very heavily. At this point, Xander, I don't know. This might just be up to the star's discretion here. I mean, red flag's out. Obviously, usually you just go back to the lap prior. Do you think they're going to get a full restart here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No laps completed for the entire field. The red was thrown by the timing monitor back at 3rd place. This is the ultimate mulligan for John Antonino and Nathan Dupuy especially. 2 drivers from the inside of the first 5 rows. Antonino from literally the front row. And if indeed that's what will be the case, they'll head to the pit lane and he will get a true mulligan, a true reset to put himself back into, I believe, the primary starting spot, if that's the way it goes here. It depends, again, what they want to call it on. There was a lot to dive into on that alone.
Let's see some of the drivers' reactions here. Weiland clearly.
So there they go. So you can hear it from the officials, the Stars Championship Series officials starting to let the drivers know. And I believe Caleb does have some intel for us as well. What do you have?
Standing by, listening into one of the radios, and from what I can hear, it's about 10 to 15 minutes. They're going to let all the KA juniors work their way through, and they're going to allow them all to switch to rain tires. It's going to be a complete restart because we did not complete a lap.
There you have it. Thanks for the update, Caleb. Straight from race control, this race will be basically scrubbed and then fully re-racked based on the original starting order. Kudos to the KA juniors, though, for even a bit of spins offline. There was no major carnage, and there definitely could have been with the insane loss of grip during the pace lap. And so that will give us a few moments as well. So there you have it, a 10 to 15 minute window to quickly swap to rain tires, and we'll take a moment to step aside. When we return, we'll be ready for more from Newcastle Motorsports Park with the Stars Championship Series King of the Castle. But all of a sudden, the rain that had been only staying off camera and overnight has greeted us here this morning on Sunday, and it's put a temporary hold on the on-track activity.
looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR, with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today. Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200?
I'm tired of all this branding business, okay? Branding this, branding that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats. They got MXCs. And if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental US over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR?
MXC rims.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound.
Who the is Kyle Cuthbertson? Doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney. Turney in the dirt.
Florida Kart Racers, you asked for it, and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLPC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
So for those listening in the paddock here, folks, we are under a temporary weather hold right now, allowing the KA Juniors to switch over from dry to wet tires. 15 minutes from the moment that the last cart rolls out of the scale line, so everyone is all even, and then we'll go back on the racetrack. In the meantime, let's take a look at, well, some of the highlights from the 2024 season here. This is the OKN Stars division. It started off with the 2023 champ, Brandon Carr, his only start of the year, and part of the reason why he probably didn't make more of them was a spin there in turn number 1. But the story of the weekend were the two drivers who split the moto wins. Caleb Gaffera and Paulie Massimino were the two drivers who won on Saturday. They were able to charge through the grid and get up towards the front after having issues apiece in those motos. And then along with that, what made it a little easier? Well, some of the superstars had problems, like Peyton Phillips there. The bump coming off the back straightaway was knocking a number of spark plugs loose. It's normally a pretty smooth surface here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Right there, that little jump was enough that it took the RPM driver out of the running. But it was like 1 and 2, a 1-2 punch. Massimino first, and then Gaffera as they cut through the field. And what helped them get closer was Diego Ramos, who got to the lead first and battled with Nick Terlecki, and that allowed them to just slow up enough for Paulie to get there. But once he got to the lead, it was far from over. Nick Terlecki had never won a major before, and he was fighting with everything that he had to be able to try and get back around Paulie Massimino. In fact, he had more than enough back on the back straightaway to send it there. Crossovers for the lead. This allowed Gaffera to continue to march back and give Ramos a little bit of new life. It was a barn burner main event to kick off the year in the class that saw a few new players. And at this point in the season, Paulie Massimino had no plans up until Friday afternoon to even race the thing. But a last-second call had him go good in qualifying, had him look fast to the motos, and it gave him a chance here on Sunday. He was ready, and he wanted it just as bad as anyone else out there, and they were continuing to duke it out until right here, this moment. Nick Terlecki right on the back of Massimino with Ramos nipping at his heels, had the bumper get caught behind the right front tire, and Paulie Massimino would go on to score the win, his first major on the U.S. scene as well, and it would start a very storied championship chase with him coming out of Charlotte as the leader. But Newcastle was a far different story. Nick Terlecki and Josh Hotes in a soaked and soggy Saturday were the best through the motos for the most part, and right off the bat in the main, they took the lead. Alex, this one saw even Josh Hotes, team owner, who's back just on team owner duties here in 2025, lead for a good part of the early section of the main. In fact, Nick Terlecki got shuffled back early, and then it looked like King of the Castle winner from the previous year, Aiden Fox, would have a shot as he took a turn at the lead.
Well, we always joke with Josh Hotes, you know, whenever the wet weather comes out, he wants to be on the racetrack. I'm sure he's kind of nipping at his heels a little bit there. He wants to get back on the racetrack right now with how wet it is over at Newcastle, where he had success last year. But once it started to dry up, it was all about Nick Terlecki around Aiden Fox, like you said, who got up to the lead early doors, but the pace fell off later on. Gaffera, though, was quick throughout a lot of this race. Got through an Aiden Fox, but it was just enough defending from Josh Hotes throughout most of this race that allowed Nick Terlecki to see the checkered flag first, claim his first 125cc major win. You see how much it meant to him to cross the stripe first.
And it was the first national win for the Hotes driver development team too. They then parlayed that into a lot of momentum over the summer stretch and an even stronger contingent this year. But for Josh Hotes, the next round at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati did not look nearly as pretty. Contact on the opening lap from the bumper of Zachary Clayman DeMello sent him and Aiden Lorenko into the barriers, and it ended their day right then and there, and they weren't done. Lorenko's teammate, Aiden Fox, with a mechanical failure in the middle of the main, and he went out. And then here, Paulie Massimino, a rare mistake out of one of America's top talents, dropping a tire, allowing the sneaky Brazilian Diego Ramos, who always finds a way to be their captain of consistency throughout the 2024 season, to get by. But Nick Terlecki wanted that second win just as bad as he wanted the first, if not more. He was going at it with Ramos, but Diego, knowing that his teammate Henry Wheeler was up the road in the lead and that there was so many points on the line, wouldn't give it to him easily, and he eventually got back by. Then Terlecki and Massimino at this point were the top two in the championship, and while they fought it out, it was Henry Wheeler well up the road and getting redemption at the track that saw one of the biggest heartbreaks a driver could ever experience for him last year in 2023 when he lost the title. But he still was able to get it back and put himself in a chance to fight for the championship at the night fight. The one of the only races under the lights that we get to experience on the KC National Circuit, and it was an edge-of-your-seat battle, but at the end, under all the pressure, in a winner-take-all points fight, Paulie Massimino was able to fend off Diego Ramos and score his first career U.S. Pro Championship, a night that he will look back on with, I'm sure, a ton of great memories. He, his family, his girlfriend, they were able to experience it at his home racetrack where he has developed so many of the nation's best up-and-coming superstars, including the likes of last year's K-Stars champ, the doubles champ over 23 and 24, James Overbeck, who now joins Paulie on the OKN Stars grid, making the leap upwards in 2025. What a night that was, and what a battle that season was all the way to the end. One of the closest championship fights you can have. 4 drivers realistically in contention going into the weekend, coming down to 2 of them in a heads-up mano-a-mano fight for the final race of the season. You can't script it any better.
Well, in a season that saw Paulie claim his first 125 major national win besides the X30 shootout back in 2021 there at the IMA Grand Nationals, it also saw him claim his first national title. And again, for a guy that's so quiet usually, doesn't show a whole lot of emotion, we saw a lot of it that night.
It was felt like a weight lifted off his shoulders. He's a Super Nationals champion in K100. He is one of the best 100cc drivers in the country, and now he's got accolades in the 125 classes that are starting to pile up. However, of course, 2025 wasn't ultimately too kind to him here to start this season. He's still, of course, as a part of the Stars Championship Series Champions Fund on a full year run that will have him going through the 2025 year to defend that title. And if he wins it again, it'll be another ride in 2026. His team owner, Brandon Jarsakrak, is only a pretty busy guy, but during the downtime here, Caleb has been able to catch his ear here on pit lane. Let's send it down.
Yeah, thank you, Zane. I don't know if we can call it much of downtime for you guys, right? It seems like, you know, for the National Racing Series, this is about the second or third time we've done this year. You know, the entire crew's been at work. All the mechanics come out of the tent to help talk about the process, right, to get everything switched over for wet weather.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole team effort. All the mechanics come out, help, jump in. Just as much going on out here goes back in the tent to get the next class ready to go too. And like you said, I feel like we've done this every race we've gone to this year. And I think we got a pretty good system down pat, and hopefully we can go and do good in the wet.
I know you won't tell me much about what exactly you guys are changing, but, you know, is it big, drastic changes? Do you guys feel like, you know, the crew's strong enough to make those changes on the fly in that 15-minute time span?
Yeah, I mean, there's very many changes to make, especially with the little rain that we got. It really just made the track a little damp, but not like a crazy full wet situation. So it's really condition dependent on how many changes you make and whatnot. But yeah, 15 minutes, you can do just about everything you need to do to get a kart from dry to wet, especially with the good mechanics that we have on hand, and they have no issue.
Thank you, Brandon.
No problem. Thank you.
What a great bit of intel here from a powerhouse team owner now. You can absolutely put that on Brandon Jarsakrak's long list of accolades in karting here in the United States. A 4-time U.S. Pro Kart Series Pro X30 champ, multi-time 100cc champion as well. He's won about everything there is to win, and now he is a multi-time champion team owner, multi-time national race-winning team owner, and trying to develop the next generation here with K.A. Jr. Having a couple of entries in this A pre-final. Like he said, it's a well-oiled machine for the BJR camp. They are doing this every week like a number of the major race teams that fill up this paddock. Over 300 drivers, and it's a full team effort to be able to compete at this level that the Stars Championship Series has evolved to. Whether you're an independent, where it's a family affair, mom and dad involved, and a small trailer, to the biggest U.S. manufacturers and importers and their major race rigs as well, with mechanics and data coaching available, all that to try and say, all right, we've done this before, we've been in this position. Like he said, this has probably been a year mired with inclement weather more than probably the last couple.
Yeah, for sure. And again, part of that's just, you know, this is one of the situations where the weekends fall on weather, right? But like Jarsakrak said, first of all, 15 minutes, plenty of time for a racetrack that didn't really see a whole lot of rain. It just caught a lot of the drivers out at the perfectly wrong time. But number two, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's having the same amount of time. Everyone's only able to change certain things, and you're all on the grid. There's only so much you can do to your go-kart. There's only so much you have to do to your go-kart. And this is going to be really interesting, right? Because, of course, The rain hits right as we hit that crossover point, right when it was time for slicks again. The rain decided to come back and peek its way onto the racetrack, but I'll be curious to see what the tire selection is. Most likely rains all across the board, but it'll be pretty quick back to that crossover point again.
So only 5 minutes remain on the clock here from Newcastle Motorsports Park. Once again, just an update for everyone. We're under a short weather delay, but nothing that will majorly impact the overall day. This was due to the rain hitting right as the KA Juniors all went out with slick, dry tires. With the track changing as much as it did, the rulebook allows a 15-minute grace period to change things over. And beyond that, then it is back to ready racing action to catch things on up. So 4.5 minutes until the timer for us hits 0. This is unofficial timing, our estimation based on the 15 minutes from the officials, but it's getting down to crunch time, and we'll go down to Caleb.
Thank you, Xander. I want to take you guys through the grid here so far, because we saw in Masters, right, not everybody was on a new set of rain tires. They were kind of on a mix, right? We had some scrubbed in rain tires. We look at Isaac Malquit, right? He intermediate, right, quote unquote. Sorry about the range. I'm going to move further back on the grid. Hopefully it improves here for us. We look at Nathan Golseth as well. Scrub set of rain tires. We look at that. We look at a couple of the BJR machines. They're on new rain tires, so we're going to walk to the back of the grid with them and see what they got. Nathan Dupuis, I believe this is the 841 rolling up. That's a new set of rain tires for him on that Nash Motorsports machine. It looks like Travis Pettit going used here as well. The 8 MPG new. So that's just a big difference that we're going to see, right? And we saw it work for Laurencio Mardan, and I want to hear your guys' input as well, Xander and Alex, of what we're going to expect to see, because we did have mists earlier on. I do think this track's going to dry up the way that we saw in Masters. So I want to hear from you guys as well, but we'll continue to work our way down, and I'll give you guys more intel as we go.
Thank you, Caleb. Yeah, good point there, right? Again, the racetrack didn't really get hit with too much water, just enough to make it tough to drive.
This microphone is chop cheap.
On slick tires. But in terms of right now what we can expect, the KA Masters class was right in that transition point. We saw Laurentiu Mardan go out on scrub set of rains, and it almost worked out for him, but the slick tires for John Bonanno worked out in KA Masters. I think we're just outside that window. We're going to expect to see the entire KA Junior class on rain tires here for the moment. But again, like you said, scrub tires for most of the grid. The BGR guys on news, I'll be curious to see how that kind of affects it. I'd personally go out on scrubs. I think it's a little bit better, usually in conditions like this where it's, again, intermediate conditions. There's not really a dry line anymore. You can look at the racetrack in the background, and it's, just one large dark patch on the surface. So again, it'll dry up rather quickly. We saw it yesterday morning during the warm-up sessions when it rained overnight. It dried up pretty quick. Today was a little bit slower, but again, nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see the different strategies that we see the teams go out on.
So 2 minutes remain. One more quick break and a word from our partners, and then it'll be back-to-back session action here as we catch back up with a little bit dampened circuit for KA Junior.
All the way up to the finish line. Who is it going to be? And it's Sean Perez who wins in Crescent.
Ty Fisher wins $1,000 in KA 100 Junior.
How about John Bird for TV Kart USA on home soil? They take the win in Amarillo.
Amarillo Kart Complex is now the official distributor for TV Kart in the continental U.S. Become a dealer today.
Champions aren't just born on the kart track. At SimShop, we deliver professional-grade simulators with the best performance-to-price ratio in the industry. Founded by racers who understand what you need, our SimMagic and Moza equipment is powerful enough for the pros, yet affordable for everyone. With unmatched customer support and a thriving community, we're your racing partner. Visit simshop.com today.
Come on, man.
Florida Kart Racers, you asked for it, and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLPC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
All right, KA Juniors back out onto the circuit. A mulligan session for these young kids. Again, for those of you just tuning in, we're just getting out of a 15-minute weather delay. It's a bit of a grace period for these young kids to go out there and the teams to go out there and change tires if they wanted to. A bit of mist, a bit of light drizzle hit the racetrack right as they started their their pre-final event, and a lot of them went off the racetrack. And before the end of lap number 1, the Stars Championship Series decided, you know what, red flag, let's call it here. We'll bring them back in. We'll let them change tires if they want to. So most of them went out on rains, some on scrubs, some on news. Let's see how this all pans out. And again, it was red flagged, but it was red flagged before the end of lap number 1, so it's a full restart. And for John Antonino, what a bit of luck there for him. He went off the racetrack in turn number 2. He's back on the front row. Green's out for Pettit. Over Malkwit, over Tristan Murphy, over Nashbert there, who's one of the drivers who went off in the shark fin in the first pre-final go-around. He's up to 3rd now on a second try at it, a do-over, if you will, for this pre-final. Further back, a little bit more tame than it was for that first pre-final for these KA juniors. Further back, Abernathy going after it with Cole Medeiros. Those two drivers had a really good start in the first pre-final attempt. Not as well here for the second one. Long events though, a much longer race than the heat races were. It's over 11 minutes long plus 2 laps. A lot of laps for these KA juniors to go out there and slot themselves for that main event. But again, this is the KA Junior Pre-Final A. The way this works, the 30 that are already in this one are going to make the main no matter what. What a late lunge for Cole Medeiros. It's going to move Nate Dupuis wide. And again, part of that is just this surface is slightly damp. It's not as damp in this part of the racetrack as it is on the first sector. It's a pretty dry racetrack on this section just because of how hilly it is. And again, the water didn't affect it as much as it did through the sections like the shark fin where the water tends to bottle up on the inside of that corner. Nonetheless, we're getting ready to wrap up lap number 1, and it's getting tight up front. Pettit, Malkwit, Antonino, top 3 going after it. They've all left. Oliver Nashbert, who I think must have gotten past in turn number 16 when we last saw him go through our cameras. Further back, Malkwit through on Murphy. Medeiros through, trying to go through on Darren Kidd, couldn't make it stick. Cole Medeiros feeling confident. The Canadian, we know he has a lot of experience in the rain. He's really quick on board that REM Cosmic, and he's showing it early doors here. So too is John Antonino. He had an off in that pre-final for the 1 lap they got. He's now taking most of the advantage he's gotten by getting a chance to do it all over again. Up to P2 and Isaac Malkwit there, lifting the rear left tire there. They've got a pretty good setup on the MPG because that's ideal in wet weather, intermediate weather conditions. To get that inside tire to lift, you're getting the nice rotation you need. You're not having to add as much wheel as maybe, say, what I'm seeing from Isaac Malkwit, what I'm seeing from Travis Pettit. But Antonino, they're playing with the outer edge of the racetrack, dropping a tire in the dirt. That's not ideal for you because, again, the track's already slick. You add dirt, you add some wet grass to that mix as well, and it won't be a fun couple of corners for him. Further back, Nate Dupuis, we saw him get pushed wide by Cole Medeiros. His charge back through continues. Through on Tristan Murphy, and now it's Nate Dupuis' turn to try to get through on Cole Medeiros, and I wonder if we might see a favor get returned here momentarily. Further back, Malkwit must have made a mistake because Weiland's now on his bumper as well. So again, it's the battle of who's got the setup right, who got the tire pressures right, who's confident in the rain. And around Newcastle, there's a couple of different tricks that you could do around this place. It's one of the few tracks that I think that the rain line really drastically changes throughout the course of the race, and Darren Kidd, I think, really assisted Benham Abernathy through turn number 2 there, and that was a tricky one for Abernathy to hold on to, but he made it work. Antonino inside of Travis Pettit through the shark fin. He'll make that move stick for a moment, but a great crossover there for the Speed Concepts racing driver. He's back through on John Antonino, so now the fight for the lead continues, and the more you fight, we know this very well around this racetrack, the more the rest of the field is going to come back into play here. So Pettit through on the inside of Antonino. Wow, through the dog leg. The MPG machine through on Travis Pettit. They both simultaneously look over their shoulder to see where the rest of the field is, and they're starting to close up. Isaac Malkwit now getting past, or trying to, by Max Weiland. They're side by side through Cell Tower, now through the double left-hander here towards turn number 15, 16, and towards the scale house corner. And now Weiland finally gets around Isaac Malkwit. He's been trying to do that for a handful of laps there. Made it stick now here on lap number 3. The Magic Machine looking to go out there and claim potentially a pre-final victory. The pace looks good so far for the 8-8 team, but out front, Antonino, Pettit, Weiland, Malkwit, Cole Medeiros, the Canadian. His charge through continues from 9th to 5th on lap number 3.
This race, no different than Shifter Master, will have a different racetrack to greet the drivers every single lap around, and the times are going to quickly change. They've gone now from what were in the mid-115s on a fully dry circuit to the 127s. Like Brandon Jarskrak said, I don't think it's going to be long before we're back to dry tires without any other interference. Maybe one more session, maybe 2. And I think if I'm lining up for KA Stars' pre-final, I'm a bit concerned, but I'm probably eyeing up my MG Reds more than I am my MG White rain tires. So we stay green for now with 7 minutes plus 2 laps to go in this KA Junior A pre-final. And what a godsend it is for John Antonino. Take a look at the radar down at the bottom right corner of your screen. Again, we're somewhere right between Indianapolis and about a 30-minute drive to the west of Richmond and 30 minutes directly south of Muncie. So when you look at that, the small pop-up cells down by Cincinnati and up by Kokomo, well, they are well around us and well far away. We should be okay, but again, a little pop-up shower remains, of course, at any point a threat, because we are still overcast. We're still a bit damp and more than anything a bit muggy and humid. But we stay green with another lap down. How much did they improve? About maybe a couple tenths that time. Buddy found himself some more speed.
Quite a bit of speed too. A 126.6 over Pettit's 26.9, 26.7 for Weiland, and then is down to the 27s and 28s for the rest of the field. The top 3 spread out pretty good. Pettit trying a lot of curb in turn number 3. I think it's a little bit too much for his liking. Further back, I just saw a move there. Nate Dogg through on Isaac Malkwit. Little Sizzle started this race on the second row, and whoa, just assisted Nate Dupuis in that pirouette, and the same place where he ended up spun around on the first go around in that pre-final is where he's going to end up here for the second pre-final. And I don't think to any fault of his own, Isaac Malkwit losing a little bit of control on the braking of Showcase Corner and moving Dupuis up the racetrack. Super unfortunate for a driver that was starting to charge through the field. And I was talking about Isaac Malkwit. He seems to be struggling quite a bit right now on that MDR machine. Just doesn't have the grip levels that say Max Weiland has. Just got around Travis Pettit, and his sights are now set on John Antonino, and that gap is closing drastically here. He crossed the line about a second back from Antonino last time by. Looks to be a lot closer this time around, and Antonino trying a lot of curbs. And what this tells me, Xander, is anytime you see drivers on a track that's drying like this, use a lot of entry curb, they're struggling for rotation, and they're having to use it to try to get the car to turn any more than they already can.
Every tool that you have in your driver's toolbox you're trying to use. At this point, it's all in the hands of the kids on the racetrack to make do with what they've got. The quick 15 minutes is usually, again, more than enough to pull the tires off, obviously, switch fully over to a wet set. And when you've got the tire off, it's only a couple more bolts to be able to swap the rear sprocket and adjust the engine mount to put some more teeth on. What we're going to see really quickly is the difference in gambles. Did you take too many teeth or add too many rear teeth on to give yourself more bite out of the corner that you hinder yourself as the track gets faster? Well, maybe Max Weiland's longer-term play with the Magic Kart is better. You saw John Antonino slide wide in the green corner and give up the lead, and he's going to try and take it back. It looks like a dirt track out here now, right in the cushion for grip, but being able to send some slide jobs down the inside. We're back to the 893 in the lead. Who knows how long that will last, though.
Yeah, well, the way that move works for John Antonino, it's like you said, it's like a dirt track. And again, anytime rain hits the racetrack, all of a sudden, anywhere where rubber was starting to form becomes an ice rink. And the inside of the racetrack under braking tends to be pretty grippy. And so for Antonino, he recognized that at the cell tower, said, you know what? Weiland overslowed it. I'm going to dive down the inside. I'll probably get a bit of understeer on the exit, but I'm going to claim the center of the corner. And that's the ideal line. And it's almost like a slide job in dirt racing. Not to that extent, but same type of concept. Look at this group of go-karts. So this is back from Darren Kidd in 7th all the way back to at least the early teens there.
Yeah, this is a big group here, and at this point, you're just trying to make sure you're not the dummy that goes off and into the grass. 2 by 2 now as Valentino Santillan takes command. Wheel to wheel for Darren Kidd and Mason Berry. He'll tuck in behind what looks to be Tristan Murphy's RPM Tony Kart, but 2 by 2, 3 wide for a minute as Berry threads the needle through the middle. And now the teammates of Golseth and Murphy are side by side. Here's Asen Dromalev getting into the mix of it all. This racetrack, it's a bit different than some. I've heard all kinds of cool stories of how drivers and mechanics and coaches will, when they walk the track or check it out at night, will try to find where the grip will be. Because sometimes when it's wet like this, it's not all the way around the outside, but it's actually, from what I've been told, right above the seam. So you just get up to that second layer or second lane of asphalt. You don't have to go all the way to the grass. But even still, as this track dries back out, the grip or the rubber line grip will start to tick back up, and you'll be able to go back to the normal line. And when you're in a battle pack like this, where you're already going a bit slower because everyone around you, the last thing you can do is leave the door open. You have to try and push through the natural groove on the bottom. But it's hard to make moves, as you can see. Mason Berry on the inside, less grip in the middle of the racetrack for Darren Kidd. He'll hold on to 7th as the fight continues here, and out front, the top 3 continue to build the gap. Here's Nathan Golseth now trying to follow Berry through on Kidd. Even Berry dropped a tire there, all on the limit, and they've now picked up more than 2.5 seconds from what they were running just 2 laps ago. It is continuing to change. Antonino to the high side, left the door open. Weiland walked right through it. He'll try to do the same in the green corner to Max. He does so. Max crosses him up. This is awesome racing here for the top 3 in KA Junior and through the field.
This brought Pettit back into play as well, hop into the seat, trying to get as much out of that engine package as possible. Antonino goes lower than Weiland. Look for the crossover here, side by side on the exit of Cell Tower. Weiland's going to try to claim the corner, moving him up the racetrack to the double left is Antonino. Weiland's going to hold on to that position for P2. Travis Pettit right now is kind of just a spectator because they're going side by side in every single corner. There's not a window for the speed concept machine to claim. But that being said, Isaac Malquit, I talked about his pace not really being there, and it's not, but it's come back to him. A 1:23.9 was the quickest of the top 4 last time by, so the more you battle for the top 3, look for a little sizzle to come back into play. Here's Valentino Santillan going at it with Sam Tutwiler further back. That's the fight for 14th, 15th, 16th there, as Parker Ives as well is in that mix.
Yeah, Parker Ives on the 11th or 6th row of the grid, trying to drive forward now. Let's see if anyone else has made up a lot of spots. Berry is up 9 on that team. GWR Gillard into 7th, so a big charge forward for him. Another rookie again in Darren Kidd that we've followed a lot, up 4 in the 8th spot. 4 gained as well for Benham Abernathy and Cole Medeiros. And Max Weiland is up 4, and he could be up 5 if he can just get back around Antonino and make it stick. But what a slugfest, and all the side-by-side action, all the slide jobs. It's allowed another driver to come into frame. Isaac Malcutt on the Mike Doty Racing entry is now right there in the thick of it as he makes it 4 deep in the lead pack. But Travis Pettit in just a couple corners might split them off from Antonino. That move didn't work, and Buddy Antonino's got himself about 4 car lengths to boot.
Yeah, it makes me wonder the different tire strategies, right? It looks like, I bet Isaac Malquit went out on scrub set of tires there because the lap time difference at this point of the race is pretty drastic. A 1:22.5 to a 1:24 flat for your leaders. Malquit struggled early doors in this one, but the pace has come back to him. Yeah, another second taken out of the lead of John Antonino. And as the clock strikes 0, 2 laps to go here in the KA Junior Pre-Final. And the grip on the exit for Malkowit, not as good for Antonino, throws it off the racetrack by himself. And for Isaac Malkowit, what a run. I talked about how he didn't have a whole lot of pace early doors, fell back to 7th at his lowest point. He reclaims the lead.
What does that do now with Isaac Malkut to the point? Antonino having to play catch back up in the 4th position. A long ways back to Cole Medeiros. It's just these 4 and another 5 seconds to the rest of the field. And who will get the pole starting spot for the main? Isaac Malkut. What a recovery. I mean, he was way back from these 3 when they began to battle. Max Weiland probably had no idea where the 872 was, but he knows where he is now. He's right in front of him, and he's got to go to work on a different leader with less time on the board. This time by, with the timer at 0 as it was the last lap around, it should be the white flag. Travis Pettit, a crossover, now done by Antonino, costs him the 3rd spot. And a little bit of time for both of them as they round that turn 19 corner. 1 to go. Malkut's followed all of them. He's found some pace on his own, and he's now opening the throttle half a second last time by.
Yeah, starting to really extend his lead, stretch his legs on the rest of the field. Further back, that fight for 6th is going to rage on. Abernathy, Barry, Dramalev, Tutwiler, Landon Boer, all within a second. Landon Boer, by the way, Antonino's teammate, up 19 positions to 10th. Sam Tutwiler up 5. He went purple last time by, a 120.2 versus the rest of the field in front of him, a second or 2 quicker than 6th through 8th. So that battle for P6 is really going to start to heat up here on the final lap. Shades of what we saw in the Micro Swift pre-final just moments ago, about 30 minutes ago, where towards the end of that race we saw a really good battle for that fight for 5th on back. Great fight here for P2 as through the up in the distance there, Malkowit really starting to stretch his legs. It's Weiland versus Antonino. Going defensive is Weiland. Look for the crossover here. Yeah, he's got it. Antonino inside looks at the eyes of Max Weiland. He's through the scale house corner.
John Antonino able to get back to 2nd at least, but Isaac Malkut watches the 3 of them fight and takes it all away. He wins the pre-final for Group A in KA Junior. Antonino will join him on that front row later today. Weiland 3rd, Pettit 4th, and the fight for 6th on back is insane. Look at this, Benham Abernathy at the line's gonna hang on over Sam Tutwiler. Tutwiler, like Antonino, had a spin on the opening lap of the originally scrubbed pre-final, and he now finds himself 7th at the checkers. But check it out, watching that race unfold, watching the lap times get down to within 5 seconds of what they were able to do on slick tires, has quick movement on the grid. This is Danny O'Gara and the MPG Motorsports Kart Republic gang trying to make last second changes. There's his father, his mom Sarah as well, and help to try and get him onto slick tires right before we go back racing. So last second changes for Swift Stars. KA Stars is probably again gearing up with their MG Reds as well as they try to get the last few lug nuts tightened on before the command will be given. On the other side, wet tires. This is Cameron Johnson. He's ready for action with the Franklin Motorsports Merlin squad and rolling up to the front of the grid. It's a complete mix. Back to slicks here with the 1-2-3 Bennick entry. So all back and forth. Win Gottschalk. 1-2-5, my mistake there. Slicks. And check out the rest as we get ready to go.
A nice slow pace, please. Thank you. There's going to be a yellow on the signboard that's saying slow, and then there's going to be someone trying to slow you guys down.
Yeah, guys, wait too fast, okay? I don't want to fall and jump start here. Stay off the throttle.
Okay, he sets the pace. We're coming with a nice slow pace.
Don't you worry about shit. You just have fun.
Last minute carts rolling up, one of them being Santiago Orioli there on the MPG machine. Again, I think if you're Cameron Johnson right now, you're looking around, you're the only driver inside the top 10 to not be on slick tires. It makes you wonder, is it the right call, is it the wrong call? We don't really know. I mean, watching that KA Junior pre-final, it makes you think it's probably time to cross over and go to the slick tires, but we don't really know. So these young stars, these these Swift stars are the first drivers to go at it and try the crossover. Last minute here, the 130, Liam Francisco rolling up to the grid late. It's all good. Slick tires Jaden Francisco, sorry about that. Big bro Jaden. Yeah, there's a lot of Franciscos out there. There's a Tristan, a Liam, and Jaden there. And Jaden, I should know that. I fell on his go-kart over in Charlotte. So Jaden Francisco there, slick tires for him. Just like the rest of the top 10 besides Cameron Johnson.
So the gamble for Cameron Johnson means they're going to try and drop him as low on air pressure as possible to not roast those things, and he will be a straight-up cannon shot on the first couple laps. But how long will it stick? Caleb.
Xander, everybody almost inside of the top 10 is on slick tires except for Cameron Johnson. He's on a U set of rain tires, the only driver opting to do so. We'll keep an eye on him as this race goes on.
That'll keep things interesting for sure. There's always at least one that might take a gamble here. No risk in terms of making it to the main for the Swift Stars drivers. They will all go on to race this afternoon. This is a matter of setting the order for how they will start and awarding up to 100 championship points. That'll be to the winner of this one. Holden Myers and Maxwell Macha, your front row, ahead of two drivers who have been battling and headlining the Mini Swift age group throughout this spring and summer stretch. Jaden Francisco and Enzo De Janeiro here back to row 3.
Row 3, Jake Manalio, Santiago Orioli there. Further back to Win Godchalk and Dominic Gaddis on row number 4. And rounding out your top 10, Daniel Guerra. We saw the last minute change to slicks. And Cameron Johnson, like Caleb said, the only driver in the top 10 to go on reins. They're scrubbed reins, but they're reins nonetheless. The rest of the field, Simon Jack Klein, Isaac Carvalho. As you see in the background there, the Stars officials telling the Swift Stars to slow it down. They were moving through those final couple of corners there, and getting a word here from Simon Jack Klein, a report about Simon Jack Klein, also on the wets. So the drivers in 10th and 11th, at least as we know it, Xander, on wet weather tires.
Let's take a look at the last few starters here. They'll pop on screen before we go all the way back to Colton Bruck in 33rd. Holden Myers, Maxwell Macha for the pre-final in Swift Stars, ready for action from Newcastle. Let's get after it. 8 to 12 years old. They've been waiting all morning for this. The green flag is out, the lights are out, and we're racing to turn 2.
Good start from Myers. A lot of beating and banging into the brake zone of turn number 1, I-70, and one driver off. Maxwell Macha, your leader.
Macha into the grass as he dropped a tire. More contact further back. One driver ramps up and over the left rear of another, and they will keep going. In fact, it looks like they've all at least made it through to turn number 5, and we're single file for a bunch of them. Keep your eye on Cameron Johnson. He'll have the extra grip in the middle of the corner as following him off the road there. That was the new gen Motorsport entry, I think. One of the, might have been Daniel Dragunov in the 151 with a good start from 15th.
If you're on the reins, this is your time. The opening couple of laps is where you need to be quick because you know those tires will begin to chunk up. They'll turn into slicks eventually, like you saw from Laurent Mardan. There goes Jaden Francisco on through on Holden Myers there. He'll reclaim the lead. And then they have a pretty big gap now to the second group there. So it's Win Godchalk ahead of, I believe, Jake Manalio there on the RPM machine. Then it's De Janeiro. Then a big group back. Hudson Howard, Simon Jack Klein going after it. Orioli had a bad start. He rolled off on the inside of row number 3. He's back here with Cameron Johnson. This is outside your top 10. Both drivers there didn't have a great start, and it looks like already the reins struggling for grip. Yeah, Cameron Johnson just has nothing on the turn in there. Not a whole lot in the middle of the corner either. This track, I don't think it got a whole lot more wet than we thought it would be, and the KA Juniors did a really good job of evacuating any bit of water on the racetrack, and I got to say, it's drying rather quickly here, Xander.
It is. It's quickly drying. Cameron Johnson is going to need to be able to probably block pretty good with those wet tires and look for damp patches on the racetrack to soak them in water. You can see he's already trying to do that as well as defend, but there's nothing he can do. He's going to be a ragdoll here as the mid-pack begins to swallow him up. Look at this. now getting put nearly in the middle, 3 wide of the green corner, just trying to survive. As out front, Jaden Francisco and Holden Myers lead the way.
Further back, Win Godchalk defending from Manalio. Here's the fight back forward. Orioli through on Isaac Carvalho. Then it's Paxton Romero trying to go side by side on the Bennick there. Can't make that stick through the double left-hander. Then further back, we have a pretty big group there as O'Gara off the racetrack through turn number 14 and 15 there. But Danny O'Gara was the driver that we saw do last-minute adjustments on the grid to make sure that he gets slicks on. They probably didn't get a chance to set the pressures very well on O'Gara's go-kart, but slicks are better than reins quite clearly here as Caleb Vieska joins me up here in the booth. And Caleb, we see a black and orange flag real quickly from the 138 machine. Let's see if we can get a name to that number. But Caleb, you're down on the grid for a lot of that chaos. What can you tell us?
I mean, chaos, right? Everybody was waiting to make it out onto the grid because you have to make the changes outside. And, you know, last minute, everybody was changing tires just outside on the, I guess, runway. And, you know, Stars officials were telling them, let's get on with it. You guys got to get onto the grid. You guys got to do it now. And it took them a while to do so. And even then, right, some drivers gambled, like Cameron Johnson, like Simon Jack Klein, who's in 14th. And unfortunately, I just don't think it worked out for them here, Alex.
Yeah, no, this track is drying very, very quickly, and the slicks are quite clearly the right tire to be on. And so for Cameron Johnson, it's heartbreak, right? Because it's out of your control. You think you're making the right call, and then it gets to a point, Caleb, like you said, where the rules are the rules, and you can't really go against them, right? And you'd love to just sit there on the grid and change tires, and who knows, right? Maybe they don't have tires ready to roll onto the go-kart for Cameron Johnson, but nonetheless, heartbreaking situation for him because, again, anytime Mother Nature gets involved, you hope you're on the right end of it. And for Cameron Johnson, for Simon Jack Klein, they're on the wrong end of it.
I mean, that's a big turnaround as well for Jaden Francisco to put himself up into first place, considering they were the last kart onto the grid. So huge change for them to get themselves up there. As we have a change now for further back in the order. Hudson Howard moves up to 6th here, just past Dominic Gaddis. And his dad, Jay, just got to the fence line. He was over in Ohio, at Mid-Ohio, for the USF Juniors race, and then came out here to support his son, Hudson. And I'm sure this is the first race he's seen all weekend long, and he's going to be happy to see that Hudson is making some good moves in mixed conditions at his home track.
Hudson Howard charging through the field. Started 13th, up into the top 7 now. What a run for the JHDD driver here through Cell Tower. And again, you can see quite clearly a dry line is beginning to form here, Caleb. It's not only just one solid, damp patch now. There's still some damp parts offline, but online is one of those situations where it becomes almost single file racing, right? You go to the inside and make a move. You're in the slick stuff, like Orioli here. You got to be careful here. Makes it work. So there's clearly enough grip to make moves on the inside of the scale house corner there. And for Orioli, his charge through is continuing again. That move was for 8th over Danny O'Gara. Up front, we have 2 different battles going on. The battle for the lead and the battle for 3rd. No moves for the lead, no moves for 3rd. And there's a reason for it. This group is quicker than your leaders and by quite some margin. De Janeiro, a 117.9 leader, 118.5.
The question of tire pressure also comes into play here, Alex, and I want you to go into that a little bit because, one of the biggest things that I was hearing on the fence line was what tire pressure do I go on, especially on a racetrack that's changed so much in the last hour, right? In the last 30 minutes, even if you want to say, considering what we're seeing here, it's like thinking about a higher tire pressure, what's kind of the thought process behind it?
Well, ideally, tire temp is the most important thing, right? And the easiest way to get tire temp is to start with a higher pressure, right? That's already building up inside the tire. If you start at a too low of a pressure, you already need to build up temp to raise the air pressure to get into an optimal window, right? So it's adding to your work. So if you start at a higher pressure, it takes less work from you as a driver to raise the tire temperature so you have grip. That's how you get maximum grip out of a go-kart, especially on a track that's drying when you're on slicks. That's the ideal strategy. Like Xander was saying, if you're on rains right now, you're trying to find any bit of water. So it's the opposite. You're actually trying to cool the tire down because you're going to overheat it very quickly because there's just less surface area touching the tire. So the little bits that do, the little chunks, and that's why we call it chunking of the tire, is it becomes a slick. We saw it with Mardan's tire earlier on, where the middle part of that tire becomes basically a slick. and it's like an impromptu intermediate tire. And so that's, I bet you, what Simon Jack Klein, what Cameron Johnson, and anybody else out there on reins are experiencing right now, and that's why the pace is drastically off of what the slicks can do. Because once you get heat in these slicks, they are a lot quicker, and this racetrack is already looking to be back similar enough pace to what we saw throughout yesterday's heat races. A little under 5 minutes to go in this one. Change for the lead. Holden Myers through on Jaden Francisco.
Yeah, an update on Cam Johnson, Daniel Dragunov, 126.1, 126.7 for the two. They're down in 23rd and 22nd for the two, and that's the gamble, right, of the decision making right before this race. But even then, DeGennaro, we talked about his pace. He's already back up to 4th. So that's a good run up the field, a good run up the order for Enzo. Right back up to where he started after losing a couple spots at the start of this race.
Yeah, Enzo DeGennaro has been quick. I mean, this is the guy that put it on the pole position to start the heat races yesterday. The pace has been there. The pace is there for the RPM machine. Francisco through, Wynn Gottschalk through. Myers playing it nice right now. You don't want to make too many mistakes early on. Still plenty of racing to go, 4 minutes plus 2 laps. But this battling brings the rest of the field back into play. Manalio, here comes DeGennaro. Here comes Wynn Gottschalk. He's through on Francisco. We're about to go 3 wide here in a showcase. Holden Myers is on the wrong side of the racetrack at this point. He's just going to try to fight for 3rd as Manalio is going to try to get through as well. Nothing to it there, but a new change for the lead is to 125.
There you go, Wynn Gottschalk in the lead of this race. Manalio looking on the outside, looking to get a move done on your leader. Not enough. DeGennaro peeked the nose down low on Francisco. Everybody single file. Holden Myers, the only driver taking that wider line. But here comes Santi Orioli. Dominic Gaddis as well for the MPG Academy. Starting to close down the gap.
Look at this group now. This group of 2 turned into a group of 5, has now turned into a group of 7 plus, including Santiago Orioli, a driver that fell outside the top 10 on the end of the opening lap. He's back into the top 4 now, pushing Holden Myers behind him. DeGennaro and Hudson Howard from 13th on the grid to 6th, and behind him, Dominic Gaddis from 8th, up a couple spots as well now. So look at this inside move. DeGennaro through, Howard through, Holden Myers at this point, Caleb, back to our point of tire pressures. I think they missed it a little bit.
Yeah, indeed, he just fell off a little bit in the closing stages of this race. Orioli coming to life, DeGennaro for Hudson Howard as well. Get himself up there, and again, he's quite young. I believe only 8 or 9 years old maybe for Hudson Howard. Definitely gonna have to ask later, but he's had a good drive so far, and again, he's a lot younger than some of the kiddos up there that are 10, 11, some maybe even 12, and Hudson just doing a good job fighting against them, and it's showing on the racetrack.
Let's see it. The battle for the lead is going to start soon here. Less than 2 minutes to go now in this one. Gottschalk over Jaden Francisco right now, and then it's Orioli by himself. Santiago Orioli the last couple of laps has been the quickest driver on the racetrack. Back to DeGennaro and then Hudson Howard. Enzo's been pretty quick throughout this race. He's just been on the wrong side of a lot of passes, I think, at this point in the race, and so look for him to kind of charge back through here in the closing couple of laps. But here we go. Let's see what the lap times are showing. Orioli not able to be as quick as Francisco or Gottschalk, and actually right now I think because he's by himself, he's not going to fall to the clutches of these 4. DeGennaro, Howard, Gaddis, Myers back into the mix as well, and then further back you got to look to Jake Manalio and Danny O'Gara, 8th and 9th. If these 5 aren't careful, those 2 will be in the mix as well. And then you go back to 10th, about 5 seconds back from this group is Paxton Romero. I think at this stage in the race probably a little bit too far back, but you see the frustration from Hudson Howard. He's pointing forward. He's saying, you know, let's work together. Let's stop racing, because at this point we're going to make this a larger train than it already has to be.
That's a lot of maturity for, you know, one of the youngest drivers in this field, right? So Hudson now going to try and push Enzo along to get through on Santi Orioli, who closes the door. Holds on for 3rd. Further back, you talk about Manalio, O'Gara, 8th and 9th. With Paxton Romero in your top 10. Howard dropped the tire that time by, going on to the straightaway leading to the scale house. And that's going to give the signal to Dominic Gaddis to try and make a move.
Here we go. They're just going to miss the 2 to go signal. So next time by, They'll see 2 to go with 6 seconds to go when they cross the stripe here. Godchalk versus Francisco. Their lead is growing more. 1.2 now back to this group. Orioli, De Janeiro, back to Howard, and then Gaddis. I think Gaddis got around Howard. He did. So now it's Gaddis up to 5th. Hudson Howard in 6th. Holden Myers ahead of Manalio, ahead of Daniel Guerra, who have joined the party here. So through turns 3 and 4 into Showcase. Do we see anybody trying to go late on the brakes? No. It's a tricky corner as it is. It's faster than you think because the entry is wide enough that you don't really have too much of a brake zone here in the Swift Stars class. But up front, these two have been so smart all race, Caleb.
Yeah, they've played it perfectly here, Alex, thus far. And Godchalk, Francisco, again, you talk about them and the drive they've had. Great stuff out of the two of them. And again, we look at Godchalk's second heat race. It was just as good as this. And for everybody that was, nervous and, stressed on that grid with teams and keeping a close eye on the racetrack, making that right decision takes a lot of experience.
Here we go. Clock has struck 0. Time to dance. 2 laps to go for Win Godchalk and Jaden Francisco. At what point do we go for moves here? I think, judging by what we saw from the Micro Swift Pre-Final, you see the motion there from Godchalk pointing forward. Let's not fight. Let's continue to work together, do what's worked all race long. And again, like you said, mature stuff, smart driving from these two because they know around this racetrack, 1 pass attempt, 2 pass attempts, all of a sudden the rest of the group is back into play. And as we shift our focus a little bit further back here, because I don't think Jaden's going to go for a move until the last lap, it's kicking off. Orioli to 3rd, and then it's back to, I believe that was Gaddis there up to 4th actually. And then De Janeiro, I think, fell back to 5th. Up front, we see some lap traffic as a mistake there out of Win Godchalk through green corner. I wonder if they're going to catch lap traffic before they can pull into the pits.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to keep an eye on it here. But that being said, for Godchalk, he's definitely, experienced conditions like this or maybe even worse almost every other weekend, right? And his time over in Europe, but traffic diving into the pits. But for Francisco as well, he's experienced a whole lot of this throughout the year. They've made a lot of changes. Look back at Trackhouse where we had similar conditions like this, Alex, and we see it here again. Look at the lap times. Orioli looks to be improving this time around. Going a little bit quicker than your leaders, and indeed, because they are fighting side by side. Godchalk, Francisco, and here comes the rest of the pack. Enzo De Janeiro up front of it, and Jaden Francisco, what a setup. He takes the lead of the race.
Yeah, Win Godchalk went way too low on the racetrack in the brakes of turn number 2. He was kicking up a lot of marbles there, and again, no surprise to see him have no grip on the exit of turn 2. Further back, De Janeiro, Orioli, Gaddis getting into it. Look at this, Manalio, what a crossover move for the 191. A 2-for-1 special in Showcase. Jake Manalio to 4th.
Jake Manalio with a great move, looking back on Enzo De Janeiro. Couldn't get it done behind him. Dominic Gaddis still in tow, but Jaden Francisco absolutely running away with it here. There goes O'Gara looking on the inside of Myers. They're side by side. Orioli got shuffled to the back of the pack. He's looking for a way by. But Holden Myers, Jaden Francisco is your leader here. What a drive for him.
De Janeiro threw on Jake Manalio. What a run out of turn 15 he had. What a run for Jaden Francisco. He'll see the checkered first. He wins the Swift Stars Pre-Final over Win Godchalk. Further back, who's going to get it? Manalio, De Janeiro, Gaddis, your top 5. Back to Howard, Myers, O'Gara. And after all that, Santiago Orioli started the final lap in 3rd. He crosses the stripe in 9th. And for Maxwell Macha, off the racetrack on the exit of turn 1 on the opening lap for your pole sitter in this one, he comes back to finish in 10th. I think he fell back to outside your top 20 at one point in this race. So to finish in your top 10, what a run for the Pearland driver.
Yeah, what a run there for Maxwell Macha to round up your top 10. O'Gara, Holden Myers, Hudson Howard, Dominic Gaddis, and more. That's it for Swift Stars. The pre-final done and dusted. And again, we look at a couple that decided to gamble here in Indiana. Simon Jack Klein, Cameron Johnson, 22nd and 23rd on the racetrack. K-Stars coming up next.
Hey, what's up, Caleb? What's up, Brandon? You sound defeated. A long day at the office?
Yeah, got stuck at a cat food marketing meeting for like 3 hours. I don't know a thing about cat food, and I don't even work in marketing. And then I got sent on a coffee run like I was some sort of intern. Then at the end of the day, when I went to go get gas, I just realized everything is so darn expensive nowadays, man.
Yeah, you got that right.
Like, do you have any idea how much we're spending on Netflix?
That's like 20 bucks a month.
Do you know how much we're spending on cable?
That's like 50 bucks a month.
But you know what isn't expensive?
Tell me.
Kart Chaser Premium. For only $9.99 a month, you can watch all the American karting action live from coast to coast. Subscribe and become a member today.
Paulie Massimino wins in KA. Paulie Massimino is a winner in OKN Stars.
Take your driving to the next level with one-on-one coaching from 2024 OKN Stars champion, Paulie Massimino. Kart rental options are available if you'd like to keep yours at home, and drivers in all classes are welcome, from Briggs 206 to Mini to K100 and X30. With in-depth data analysis, onboard video footage review, and lead follow on-track sessions, each private coaching session will see you end as a more complete driver than when you started. Book your coaching session now.
This is Henry. Henry feels sad. Henry feels sad because it's time for his next big race and his go-kart is in bits. Henry doesn't know that Acceleration Kart Racing is the United States' #1 shop for all of your karting equipment needs. Henry also doesn't know that Acceleration Kart Racing can deliver anything from tires to race suits and even wheels directly to your front door or to the racetrack itself, quickly and efficiently, with tech support available 6 days a week. Poor Henry doesn't even know that Acceleration Kart Racing offers free shipping to mainland USA on selected product if you spend $200 or more. Do yourself a favor. Go to accelerationkarting.com and make sure that you are never left stuck on the pre-grid with Henry. Be smart and don't be like Henry.
Welcome back here. KA Stars out onto the racetrack for their pre-final. Alan Isambard, Oliver Hodgson starting alongside each other on row number 1. Colin Lloyd and Mateo Rubio Luengo, your Heat 2 winner, starting on row number 2. Josh Campbell, Peyton Phillips on row number 3. Drew James and Jared Clark, the winner at the Queen City Gambit on row number 4. Enzo Vidmontien, Ryan Crouch on row number 5. Cash Perkins, Davin Roberts on row number 6, Zach Frank and Mason Surgener alongside each other on row number 7. List goes on. 20 drivers on that first page, 30 getting set to take the green flag all the way back to Justin Music. And these are the drivers that are for sure making it into the main event. Look for the likes of Eli Warren, Caleb Gaffera to work their way through the field. And Alan Isambard, Oliver Hodgson, all eyes on these two as we look to the lights. They're out, and we go racing, and KA Stars a good run for the entire inside line for Lloyd, pushing Isambard through. He's able to get clear side by side for second. Oliver Hodgson gets clear. Rubio Luengo looking for a lane. Goes to the outside, has to slot back in a fourth. Single file line all the way through. We've kept them all so far in the opening lap. The opening couple of corners, I should say. Or I stand corrected. Eli Warren, looks like Lorenzo Kaufman involved in an incident, as well as TJ Coyen on the best kart. 3 drivers out, and I spoke too soon there. 3 drivers out of this race early.
Yeah, chaos to start this KA Stars pre-final here as Isambard leads over Hodgson, Lloyd, and then Mateo Rubio Luengo, the driver that won yesterday's second heat race from 17th on the grid. We know the pace is there for Mateo. Let's see if he can put it all together for Brandon Jarscrack Racing. There behind him, his teammate Josh Campbell has been passed by Peyton Phillips on board the Arcane Motorsports machine, on board the OTK package there, and with a little under 11 minutes to go, Phillips to 4th, Clark to 5th, Campbell now to 6th, and in one lap, Mateo Rubio Luengo goes from 4th down to fighting for 9th.
Here we go. Drew James looking for a move. He's able to get through. Josh Campbell going by on Rubio Luengo. Davin Roberts getting closer. Look at Enzo Vidamontiana to scoreboard. Getting his nose down low. He's clear.
What a move for Enzo Vidamontiana. We know he loves these changing conditions on a track that's maybe not perfectly dry for a lot of drivers, suitable conditions. He loves it. He tends to drive really well in these level of conditions. Drew James pointing forward to Jared Clark saying, let's work together. I'm not going to fight you too much here. It doesn't pay us a whole lot right now to fight, right? Because up front by himself is Peyton Phillips. Behind them is a handful of go-karts, 5, 6, 7 go-karts, all the way back to what looks to be Hudson Brown down there outside the top 14. So a large group of go-karts, one of them being Caleb Gaffera. Let's take a look at where Caleb Gaffera is in the moment as Addison Iannello. Jinx.
Addison Iannello into the wall there. She's up and okay.
That's a hard hit.
Wow.
Through the scalehouse corner. Looks good to see that she's all right. She stands up out of the go-kart there. And for Addison Iannello, a really strong weekend for her up to this point. And unfortunately for her, that's going to be a DNF. Now, on the positive side, this is pre-final A, so you're guaranteed a spot in the main, even wrecking out of the pre-final. It just means you're going to start 30th. And then the way it works is pre-final B is the spots 31st through 40.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Addison. Still into the show. There goes Isambard looking on Lloyd. He gets clear. And you have 3 drivers that are a lot younger than Oliver Hodgson, but even then they've showed promise in KA Stars. Here we go, this time through. Gap looking the same in between them all. Drew James next up, and his goal was to try and be a little bit more aggressive, right? He felt like yesterday he had good pace, had good momentum, but just wasn't making the moves exactly when he needed to. And he said he wanted to change that today. Unfortunately for him, finds himself a good ways back from the top 4 that, it's been the same story of these top 4 all weekend long, right? It's been Phillips, it's been Lloyd, it's been Isambard and Hodgson almost all weekend. And again, the first time that everybody's racing on the same racetrack together. Here's Caleb G. working his way through the field already up to 14th and 13th now. Looking for 12th on Mason Surgener.
Well, this is going to make it easier. Surgener is trying to fight up ahead on Zach Frank. Gaffera is going to take advantage. He's going to move Frank up the racetrack. He might even move Surgener through, and Surgener's actually going to point forward saying, you know what, if you want it that bad, just pass me. But it's actually going to cost Surgener a lot of spots there. That's the one problem with letting one guy by is on a track like Newcastle, on a class like KA Stars, you can't just let one driver by because there's usually 2 or 3 that follow. In front of Caleb Gaffera is Jared Clark, and Jared Clark was up into 5th a lap ago. He's been pushed back and cycled back to 10th, and I don't know if the pace is there for Jared right now because even after getting pushed back, he's not really fighting forward very much, and right now he's going to fall to the clutches very soon of Caleb Gaffera.
Yeah, Caleb G absolutely rolling up to 11th. Got by Hudson Howard, Surgener, Cash Perkins in the span of a lap. He's up 17 spots, looking to make it more. There goes Enzo Vidamontiana again on Davin Roberts, 2 rookies. Continuing to fight, Vidamontiana back up to 8th.
Good move for Enzo Vidamontiana on Davin Roberts there, and those are 2 young talents that we can expect to see in this class for many, many years to come, and continue to be very, very strong and get quicker and quicker as the season goes on, as the years go on, and as their experience continues to grow in this class. Speaking of experience, there's a whole lot of experience here in this top 3. Alan Isambard, a driver that we're used to seeing on the KZ side of things, drove X30 Pro with the Scusa Pro Tour, put it on pole at MCC, back in the single speed stuff, but in a KA package. He's driving week in, week out, day after day over at AMR Motorplex for Rocket Racing Company, testing every bit of engine packages that they give him, testing every bit of chassis setup that they throw at him, and again, coaching on the side of that as well. So he's always driving a go-kart, always busy. And it shows here, the 953 now ahead of Oliver Hodgson, a driver that won the King of the Castle last year. Behind him, Colin Lloyd made the switch to Velocity Racing by Sodi Kart USA this year. And after a couple races on board that package, he has finally taken a grasp of what it takes to drive the Sodi package. And he said to you, Caleb, he feels as confident as he's felt all weekend, all season long, really.
Yeah, not only him, but how about the driver in 4th, Peyton Phillips, right? You don't see him much on the national circuit, and You know, this year on his return to national racing action for Peyton Phillips, he's shown some great pace and, you know, been up at the front all weekend long. And you look back at last weekend as well in Amarillo, Texas, where, you know, he was showing promising pace. Again, for this weekend to break a spell of bad luck on what was his debut with Arcane Motorsports earlier this year that was plagued with bad luck, a huge change for him here this weekend to put it up at the front with some of the best in the nation and putting himself in that conversation, right? And even then for other drivers like Caleb G, working his way through the field. He's already up past Jared Clark, having his sights set on Davin Roberts, who's next on the chopping block.
Well, this is a driver that we spoke to, I did yesterday in an interview, and I said, listen, you kind of have an idea where you're going to start. How confident are you? He said, I've driven last to first here before. I'm excited to do it again. And Caleb G is on pace to maybe probably not do it in this race, but he's got the pace to do it over the course of a pre-final and a main. Rubio Luengo now through on his teammate Josh Campbell. As up front, Colin Lloyd through on Oliver Hodgson.
There you go for Colin Lloyd, and Oliver not wasting any time. Back up to second, side by side for third there in between Phillips and Lloyd. And there goes Colin Lloyd. These two are going to go at it. A little bit of contact in between the two, and through goes Peyton Phillips up to second. Back and forth battle in between Lloyd and Hodgson. And Lloyd showing the veteran that he's there to stay. He's going to hold on to third. For fifth on back, Josh Campbell, Mateo Rubio Luengo. They're going to close in on Hodgson here pretty soon.
That was a move out of frustration for sure from Colin Lloyd. I mean, Lloyd set him up over the course of a couple of laps, got him to the shark fin. Probably didn't love Hodgson going right back at him, but that's just part of the experience, right? Oliver Hodgson said, you know what, if you're going to pass me, I'm going to pass you back. And we're going to start to fight for second. And for Colin Lloyd there, I don't think he loved that move and went right back. And it actually ended up costing him technically a net gain of 1 and back to 0 for him, down to third. So let's see where Caleb G is. He's gotten around Vid Montien. He's gotten around the likes of Davin Roberts, who's down in 11th now, so his pace has fallen off for Ryan Perry Motorsports. But for Caleb Gafera, the pace is just getting better. Purple, 2 laps to go, a 1:11.9. A 1:12.1 is the fastest lap we've seen in the top 10 by quite some margin. What a run for the 9:11. And there's still 3 minutes plus 2 laps to go for Caleb G to maybe make up 4 seconds to the lead. I mean, if they keep battling that hard up front. Whoa. Is that his rib vest?
Not sure what is going on with Caleb G. Not sure if that's a rib vest or what he's holding on to exactly there. I think his suit ripped open, Alex.
Is that his suit? Is this a situation just like we saw at Orlando with the Masters category? Yeah, for sure. His suit has ripped open there. The Circle K all-red suit is starting to, create some drag, and I think there is potentially the rib vest starting to poke through.
Yeah, the chest plate's out.
That's what it is. Okay, so I think the suit has opened up a little bit, and the chest plate has popped out for Caleb G, and he's having to drive one-handed now through I-70.
That's going to give new life for Drew James to try and go right back on Caleb G, who is again still trying to adjust whatever issue he has, still side by side. Here goes Hodgson back on Lloyd. Phillips now having a look. Luengo, Campbell back into the mix.
What's crazy is even with all this battling, they're quicker than Isambard. If they just calm it down, there's hope to go out there and get a pre-final victory. But I think at this point, it's a battle of these drivers getting frustrated at this point. Hodgson, Lloyd, Phillips defending from Rubio Luengo, and then Josh Campbell. Behind them, Caleb Gafera, one-handed Caleb Gafera at this point in the race, as long as he can't sort out what happened to that chest plate. And at this point, for Caleb G, I don't know what you can do to fix it. He's still messing with it. Wow. That messes with you mentally, right? You're not really in the right headspace anymore because you're too distracted with that chest plate. I mean, rightfully so, right? It's dangling on his left forearm for a majority of the lap, and on a racetrack that is a lot of right-handers, it's going to be there. And again, that's just frustrating. And at this point for Caleb G, you just hope it doesn't fly off, and that's why he's having to keep, tucking it back into his lap.
Yeah, very, very strange, right? We see it all, and that's a weird place for the suit to rip. It looks like it just ripped down the left side. So that's wild stuff for Caleb G, but hey, he's doing a good job with what he's got. Pulled away from Drew James, Vid Montien, Hudson Brown, the 3 drivers behind him, and he's actually closing down his gap to
Josh Campbell there, who's at the back of the pack here on your screen.
Let's see, now that Hodgson has kind of separated himself from that second pack, we'll get a really good idea of the true pace of the Macron Motorsports Comp Kart machine. Last time by, slightly slower than Alan Isambard, but with that, there was defending involved in that lap. So this lap here, 2 clean laps for Isambard and for Oliver Hodgson. I think that gap is closing here, Caleb. The clock has struck 0, 2 to go when they cross the stripe this time around. It's 1.1 seconds from Hodgson down to Isambard. Let's see what the gap is this time by. Here we go, Rocket Racing Company, Alan Isambard across the line, 3/10 faster. Oliver Hodgson, 2 to go.
Yeah, I'm not sure if, actually I'm not even gonna say that. I was gonna say I'm not sure if Hodgson's gonna have enough time, but you know, looking at that gap close down, that's, I think I'll get proved wrong quite quick there. How about Caleb G? A one-handed Caleb G sending it on Peyton Phillips. Overshoots it into the shark fin. Phillips goes back to 6th. But even then, for Caleb G, you know, just start counting, right? Who's in front of you? Where do you want to start come main event time? Inside or outside, Alex?
Yeah, for Caleb G right now, his focus is on a lot of different things. It's on counting, it's on Peyton Phillips, and it's on that chest plate that's dangling on his left forearm. Colin Lloyd fighting with Mateo Rubiloengo. Caleb G threw it on the inside of Phillips again in the cell tower and overcharged it again. So Caleb Gaffera, as much as he'd love to get around Peyton Phillips and see if he can, you know, battle these guys, I don't know if the time is going to allow for it, but this is going to help. Lloyd going defensive over Rubiloengo through turns 17 and 18, and after the final couple of corners here, let's see. This gap is closing. Here comes Phillips. Here comes Gaffera. I think at one point Phillips was probably okay with getting passed by Gaffera, but now with the white flag in the air, it's all to play for. Gloves are off, and they've been off for most of this race.
Here goes Caleb G around the outside. Luengo as well. Lloyd defending low, trying to keep everybody at bay while Oliver Hodgson still working at the gap he has to Alan Isambard. He took a huge chunk out of the gap the last time around. It was 4/10 once again. But here we go. Caleb G finally looking on the inside. Peyton Phillips to the high side, looking to get Campbell in the process. He's going to get them both. What a move by Peyton Phillips up to 4th. Looking for another on Mateo Rubio.
Yeah, Phillips to 5th now here behind Rubio Luengo, Colin Lloyd. Gaffera wants the outside of Josh Campbell, can't make it stick. Meanwhile, Vidmontien, where did you come from? Caleb G, high side, doing what Peyton Phillips did a couple corners ago. It's going to work. That's a 3-for-1 for Caleb Gaffera. What a move around the outside there. Further back, Phillips, Campbell, Vidmontien. Who else? Drew James, Hudson Brown, Jared Clark, Davin Roberts. As the fight for the lead continues, Isambard, high side, low side, Hodgson, one more chance. Do we have the crossover? Just missed out. One more lap for Hodgson there. Isambard wins over Oliver. Who's going to get 3rd? Lloyd, Luengo, Gaffera, Campbell, Phillips, James, Vidmontien, Hudson, Brown, your top 10 drivers. What a dramatic end to this KA Stars pre-final Group A. Caleb Gaffera up 23 positions, up to 5th, and he drove the last couple laps one-handed for a majority of that. But for Isambard, for Oliver Hodgson, they were 5 seconds clear, Caleb, of the rest of the field.
Wild stuff. Wild stuff for them to really, you know, do what they did there in the end. That was a great drive by Caleb G nonetheless, but wow. Insane there, Alex.
Yeah, further back, 16th on down. Tony Rivera, Sim Vrootsky, Carson Sauter, Chase Adams, Mason Sturgener, Emery Lida, Ryan Crouch, Chris Harrower, Justin Music, William Batillier, Eli Warren, Andrew Hamill, Addison Ianello. We saw had the scary wreck in Scalehouse Corner, but good to see her up and all right. And then Lorenzo Kaufman didn't even get to complete a lap. That being said, all these drivers make the main no matter what. This is where they're going to start, and then Group B will then come up soon enough.
Quick commercial break from our side. We'll be right back with more racing action set to come your way for the Stars Championship Series, King of the Castle.
Brandon, why are
car there. All
right,
these
stop,
charges
stop.
for just over $200.
Stop. I'm tired of all this branding business, okay? Branding this, branding that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats, they got MXCs. And if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental US over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR?
MXC rims.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound.
Who the f is Kyle Cuthbertson? Doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney. Turney in the dirt.
Florida Kart Racers, you asked for it and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLKC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
Welcome back here to more pre-final action. KA100 Junior Pre-Final Group B. Let's run you through your starting grid. And remember, only the top 10 will transfer on to the main event. We just saw the first half of Junior Pre-Final Group A earlier on. Now it's time for Group B, and there's 35 fighting for 10 spots to make it into the main to make up a 40 kart field here for KA100 Junior. They're rolling pretty quick right now. It's headed by Grayson Walcott and Alex Kutcher. Green light is out, and we're racing down towards turn number 1. A lot of beating and banging in the middle of this group, but not a whole lot of chaos so far. That's always good to see here in an LCQ style format.
Yeah, a couple of drivers collected here at the start. One of the new gen machines, one of the AMAX drivers there as well, and the 887 of Brandt looks like collected at the start, but a good start up front. Grayson Wolcott, a couple of notables in this one. Nico Katowski down in 4th. We saw him have heat-winning pace, and unfortunately incidents plagued him here this weekend. Jackson Baldus, another one in the 896. Christopher Yautzi, one that we talked about racing up at the front yesterday. So a couple of notables in this one here, Alex.
Side by side, we see a couple of we see a BJR driver and oh no, I think, is that Bowen Green? Yeah, Bowen Green. He's much further up than 13th though, I'll say that much. Bowen Green started this race 13th. He's up there inside the top 10 at least. And again, 10th is where you want to be. That's the cutoff point. The top 10 transfer over into the main event. So they're racing for 31st through 40th on the starting order. And right now that place is held by Isaac Payne.
Yautzi is currently on the cutoff right now. Isaac Payne, the driver, just ahead of him. Behind Brandon Green for Timmy Tech in 12th. So Yautzi, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, is the first driver out below the cut line, below that red line. We'll see Yautzi, a little bit of love, and we have contact further up. Alex Kutcher has been collected. A couple of more as well. Connor Corsi, I believe, for Drive Your Line. the 868 out of this race early and out of the main event. Unfortunate there for Alex Kuchar as well. He gets beached.
Yeah, there's at least 2 more in the grass to the right side as well. So this is completely flipped this pre-final on its lid here. Less than 6 minutes to go. We're going to have a reshuffle, a reorder of the top 10 here when they cross the line. But it's Katowski over Walcott over Gleberman. That top 3 is going to remain the same. Then it's this group right here. We have Elefante, we have Dabalier, Malatesta, Baldus. Payne is in this group as well as Bowen Green. So let's see where they stand at the moment. Crossing the stripe, there we go. Top 3 changes order. Elefante to 4th. Kuchar's going to fall way down the order. Payne to 5th. Baldus, Green, Ezekiel Height, Lash, and Gassione now the 10th driver on that cutoff. Owen Gassione is the driver that Tyler Johnson now has to go after and chase down if he wants the chance to make the main event.
What a run. So now we look at the changes, right? Isaac Payne catapulted himself all the way up to 5th, able to get through. Where's Yahtzee now, who looked to be close to the cut line?
13th.
He's 13th. That is a huge turnaround there for Yahtzee, who was 1 spot away. Now he puts himself 2 spots away, having to take evasive action there on the lap prior.
Well, that's exactly what you don't want in a pre-final B format. I mean, if you're a parent, if you're a mechanic, coach on the grid talking to a driver, probably the one thing you told them is do not crash. Of all races, the one that makes it into the main, the one that you can get actually sent home early, is the one that you do not want to be involved in an incident, especially if you're already in the top 10 and safely in the top 10. And so for the group in front of this, for Isaac Payne, for Baldus, for Bowen Green, for Ezekiel Height, you just want to work together. You don't need to do this. Isaac Payne threw on Bowen Green. That moves Bowen Green down to 9th, which is fine. You're still in the safe cutoff point, which is right now held by Christopher Yutzi, who also went purple, a 1:14.699. So Robert Lash now is the one in 11th who has to go after Christopher Yutzi.
Actually right behind him, Jackson Baldus for Hodes Driver Development here this weekend out of Oklahoma. Finds himself now behind Yahtzee, so that would switch Baldus to 10th and Yahtzee to 9th. But again, you have to think what's going to happen when they get to Gassione, Height, Payne, Green, who's now just right behind Yahtzee. So we'll see for Christopher at this point. It's all about making moves and making them cleanly and trying to run away like Nico Katowski has done.
3 minutes to go, plus 2 laps, as the 2 Host TD drivers have hooked up bumper to bumper, but this is actually the fight for 10th. So it's Jackson Baldus, and it's the likes of Tucker Trebe now on the 831 who's trying to go off after it for 10th. So as much as they're teammates, as much as they're both Host TD drivers, one of them's in, one of them out at the moment, and Baldus now down to 12. Tucker Trebe up into that 10th spot. Kyler Cheatham up into 11th. So this is it. This is the relegation zone right here. This is 10th, 11th, and 12th, and right now it's held by Tucker Trebe.
There you go, a little bit of change. Gassione now further up the field. Yahtzee 9. Baldus, a little bit of change for him. He's down in what looks to be 13. So Tucker Trebe is now the first driver in here, Alex, with the cut line being for Cheatham on the J. Howard development. And there goes Baldus. He goes back into the cell tower corner. He's through, but he has to take the spot away from Tucker Trebe.
Right now, Tucker Trebe is starting to pull away here, so that fight for 10th is starting to become less and less of a fight. The best thing that can happen here to Baldus and to Cheatham is that they're actually all catching this next group, which is the likes of Gassione, Bowen Green, and more, as UT continues his charge forward to 7th now after going off the racetrack early on in this one. Look at this, UT again, another move up. That's for 5th on Isaac Payne. You see the frustration. Ezekiel Height looking back saying, what are we doing? There's no need to fight for 5th. As we saw some of the officials pointing at something that happened there in turn number 2. I don't know if it was for this fight for 10th.
Oh,
no, it's further back.
That's the 819. They started this lap just further back. Down in 16, that's Luke Fedowitz in the 832 of Andrew Avalos. Those 2 drivers out of this race early, but Yauzi still has been the fastest driver on the racetrack. Continuing to make moves, he went on height. And Jackson Baldus, as it stands, he's chasing down his teammate for the last spot into the show.
Well, here we go. We're getting ready to see 3 laps to go for these young KA100 junior stars. And there it is. Tucker Trebe right now is the driver holding on to that 10th and final spot to sneak in to the main event. But up front, that group is growing, and the more that group in front of them begins to battle, the larger the chance that Jackson Baldus has. But right now, there's not a big need for them to fight, because right now they're fighting for really position 38-39 for this group, 37-38-39 for this group. And in my opinion, Caleb, I'd rather try to just make the main than move up a couple more spots towards the tail end of the field, because you risk bringing more drivers into play. You risk just a lot of things. You risk DNFing in a race that you're already in the main. That's the whole goal of this event.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, right, these kids are racers at heart, so they're going to go out there and put on a show for us. For Baldus, I mean, he hasn't made too much headway, a 1:14.5 compared to Tucker Trebe's 1:13.8. So it must have been a big mistake there out of Jackson Baldus to lose that much time, or Tucker Trebe's just that fast. And I think that's probably what we're seeing here, Alex.
Yeah, it's a combination of both, right? I think Tucker Trebe's been pretty quick. I mean, all race long, he's doing a 1:13.8. He's matching the pace of the leaders. He's quicker than the entire top 4. So the pace is there for the OCD machine. Has 2 sticks in the air, 2 laps to go. And again, Tucker Trebe actually the fastest driver inside the top 10 last time by. So that answers your question right now. And if you're Jackson Baldus, you're praying for a bit of a miracle here. You're praying for a penalty from somebody else. You're praying that these 3 on our screen continue to battle, bring in Tucker Trebe, and start a bit of a chain effect here in this one. But with 1.5 to go, it's not looking great for Jackson Baldus. It is looking great though for the guys up front. Katowski, Elefante, Walcott, they have stayed the same all race long. Here's the top 5, and here's the rest of the order. Tucker Trebe's going to get there here, Caleb. And at that point, I wonder what the strategy is. I mean, if you're Tucker Trebe, if you've been counting right, and you probably have hand signals from the rest of the team, from Josh Holtz and others, right, of saying, hey, listen, you're in the right spot. You don't need to go up anymore. Don't risk it. But again, like you said, racer at heart, you want to at least make up a couple spots if you can, as we see Elefante and Walcott going after it here.
There you go. Those are 2 drivers that are fighting for second in this race.
That was Ezekiel Height there.
Ezekiel Height indeed for AEM, and Grayson Wolcott, who's in 4th. But white flag in the air. Nico Katowski still holding on to the lead of pre-final B, with Elefante, Height, Wolcott, and Yauzi, your top 5, who's been the fastest driver on the racetrack. Nobody else running as low as he has been, a 1:13.4 for Yauzi. Ben Gleverman 6 to Brandon Green, Gassion, Payne, and Tucker Trebe. We kept an eye on him for a good amount of time. And the biggest question we asked, is he going to go for the move on Gassion? Does he know he's into the main event yet? Or is he just going to be content to push here, Alex?
Yeah, well, Yauzi just got around Grayson Walcott for 4th there, so Walcott's falling back to 5th. And look at this, big battle here. So it's the likes of Isaac Payne ahead of Bowen Green, ahead of Gassion, ahead of Tucker Trebe. And at this point, not a whole lot of passing opportunities left on the circuit here for Tucker Trebe to bring in the likes of Jackson Baldus.
All the while, Nico Katowski has ran away from them all. He's going to win the pre-final B and put himself into the main event. Elefante, Height, Yauzi, Wolcott, Gleberman, Payne, to Green, Gassion, Tucker Trebe, and Jackson Baldus, the first one out, as we have 3 drivers collected that were further back in the field.
The 897 being one of them. I believe that might be Lucas Dryby there on the 830.
Johnson there on the 897.
And then the 843 of Robert Lash, who was just outside the top 10 when this occurred. So unfortunate for those 2 drivers. They were already outside the cutoff zone, but you always want to at least cross the line to finish the race.
Unfortunate end there nonetheless. All those drivers not able to close this one out. Looking down the order, Riley Dobelier as well, 20 spots lost in that race. Unfortunate for her. Her starting grid order would have put her into the show. And Robert Lash down 13. Connor Corsi, 14. We saw him get collected. That was the big wreck that we saw up front, but that's it for KA Junior Pre-Final B. Up next, KA Stars Pre-Final B coming your way.
Final session of the morning rotation. They will be backing things up a little bit to allow the hardworking crews on the racetrack a moment to get a breather, a restroom break, and of course some lunch. So with this session rolling here at 12:45, the B pre-final for KA Stars completing around 1. They've bumped back OK and J just slightly. So the adjusted pro show presented by Mazda Motorsports will start a little bit later than originally intended, but still pretty close, and that'll get us with a tightened up Mazda Pro Show back on schedule to finish out the day right on time. The B pre-final for KA Stars, Cole Wilson and Big Ben Lyda on the front row, Chase Buscaglia and David Baker on row 2.
You go back further to Ben Gaunt and Freddie Siemens there on row number 3, to Sawyer Roussel and Jacob Petticord on row number 4. You go back to row 5 to see Nick Mercer and Will Steele for your top 10 starters here in KA Stars pre-final Group B. Back to Frederick Manning and Brooke Shambo on row 6.
Row 7, Isabella Simpson and James Brassel, the next two on the outside of the cut line. This field is 25 plus deep in total. Past Wrigley Keys and David Morales, there are more, hoping that they will get a chance to race again one more time today, but you have to get into the top 10 to do that. This is the fight for 31st to 40th on the grid. Back to Mauricio Hernandez in 24th. Let's see if they're all ready. It looks good for your front row. Cole Wilson on the inside in the blue, on the outside in the all black. Steel Motorsports, Biro Art Steel Machine. Here we go. The B pre-final for KA Stars is green.
Good start for both lanes there. Further back, we're 3-4 wide there. One of the BJR entries getting all sorts of out of shape is Ben Lyda. Way out of shape in the grass. That'll shuffle him outside the top 10.
So that'll be now him below that red danger zone. The cut line as there's, 5-6 cars collected in the shark fin. Brooke Shambo along with Logan Mueller, and one driver got popped up and into the air and spun around right at the start of the B pre-final. We continue on towards the green corner. It is Chase Buscalia at the helm. It looks like with a good recovery after a bummer Saturday has sent him down to the bottom half of the field. Where does everybody else lie on lap one? Here's Sawyer Roussel sending it down the inside. That's for third. Back here by Frederick Manning is right around that cut zone. We'll see if he's still around 9th or 10th when this lap concludes. For now, the Macron Motorsports comp cart of Chase Buscalia leads to Cole Wilson in second, and into third is Roussel, just getting past what looked to be maybe David Baker.
There's a look at Ben Lyda by himself. No one behind him, no one in front. There's Logan Mueller as well. So two drivers we'd expect to see make the main event are going to have to put their heads forward and fight towards the front. Let's see it. As everyone crosses the stripe, you're spot on. Frederick Manning, the last driver right now in on that cutoff zone, but we know how hectic things can get because every driver knows, whether you're good at math or not, all of a sudden we're really good at counting when we're on the racetrack when it matters most.
Yeah, all the drivers doing the math in their head right now. Again, there's obviously the potential for race control penalties and pushback bumper penalties as well. It was definitely a close quarter start, but here's the fight for 8th. The big send to the inside. Now it'll bleed down to 9th, now to 10th, and back goes what looks to be Will Steele. He was 7th at the line. He'll now drop behind Frederick Manning to the bubble spot and maybe more if he's not careful. And oh no, contact between Will Steele and Moore. Up and over and together with the JHCD entry of Freddie Siemens. And Freddie and Will try to continue. Will has gotten back going with significant damage. Siemens is spun around facing the wrong way on the run to the cell tower. Oh, Manning. Frederick Manning with a big moment coming out of the horseshoe, Alex.
Oh, man, it's all kicked off here. And again, I talked about it with Caleb when we were announcing the KA Junior pre-final B. There's really not a whole lot of need for the aggression when you're up inside the top 5, top 6, when you're safely in. But again, it requires 2 to tango, and when one driver's not in cooperation with the other, you're not in the same headspace, that's when things can all kick off. So this has really flipped it on its head. Max Barron for Speed Concepts Racing now. He's the driver, the last one in on that relegation zone. Further back, there's a big group. Back to Isabella Simpson, David Morales, and then Ben Lyda, Logan Mueller on their comeback drive-through.
And that group might actually end up being the fight for 10th here. Brock Knowles in the 6th spot on the BJR LN cart. Looks like the pushback bumper has fully deployed. It's been a frustrating weekend for one of the surprise standouts from Charlotte Motor Speedway in the Queen City Gambit, but flurrying by there on that blue and white BJR cart. The front of 2, David Baker is on his heels, 6th and 7th, and I think Brock Knowles may indeed end up having a penalty to try and fight afterwards. That's a look at Lyda. We saw him go off. Logan Mueller is there. He was involved in the crash in the shark fin. They're trying to claw their way back up. They're not totally out of it. You can see the bumper dangling on Brock Knowles' machine, and this group, are they catching up to 10th place Max Barron? Here's Lyda to the inside for 11th. That'll put him back to the first man out provisionally with a lot of laps still left to try and track down the rest of the transfer spots.
Pace is there, 4 minutes plus 2 laps to go. Ben Lyda a little bit slower than Max Barron, but obviously 2 passes in 1 lap. Mueller now trying to follow in his footsteps. Couldn't make it stick, not confident enough on the brakes yet because still this track offline is damp enough. I saw Ben Lyda make his move in turn number 17 and a slight bit of water kicked up. So there's still not the most grippy racetrack in the world offline, and it makes you have to think twice about going for moves. Further back, Mueller inside through on Showcase.
So that'll give more space up ahead to not just Lyda, but David Morales on the QG3 karting Tony kart. But the eyes are on the Steel Motorsports entry for sure. He's already pulled away from the LN kart behind him for the Fox and Sun camp, and he's closing the gap now steadily to Max Barron. What else has happened up front? Well, we've kept our eyes around the drop zone here. Well, Brock Knowles is trying to outrun a looming penalty. If you imagine a 6-second ding for that, that would put him still outside, but not by all that much. And if there's any other penalties here, he might still be okay. But still, we keep our eyes on him and the rest of the pack in the top 10, all the way back to right here. The fight for the final transfer spot. Barron trying to get it, but Ben Lyda just went a good bit quicker than him. In fact, nearly a full second faster last time around to catch him. So here he is, our off-pole kid, trying to fight his way back into the top 10.
It's been a really good charge through for Ben Lyda. Unfortunate for Max Barron. The groups in front of him are pretty spread out, so you can't really bank on drivers battling in front of you. The best case scenario, like Xander mentioned, is if you imagine Brock Knowles has that pushback, which it looks like he does, a 6-second for a full drop down. Right now, the gap between Brock Knowles and Max Barron is at 3.7 seconds. Lap time-wise, they ran identical lap times, 1:14.3 each. So if you're Max Barron, you won't know that Knowles has a drop down, but this pass right here doesn't affect you all that much. So Lyda up to 10th provisionally, Barron down to 11th. But again, we're banking on the fact that the 902 machine does indeed have a drop down, and in that moment, it'll be touch and go. But right now, lap times are similar.
So with that here, we look now, how far back does Max Barron fall? Because if the drivers around him that are also closing in, like that 3-pack of Morales, Logan Mueller, and Isabella Simpson get by, it won't matter whether Brock Knowles stays ahead of the penalty or not. But, however, the bumper clearance penalty is exactly 5 seconds at the Stars Championship Series. If it's only on one side, it would be a non-issue, but by how much that front fairing or that front bumper is loose and dangling and moving around, I have to imagine that both sides have been deployed. And doing the quick math, that would put him 10.6 seconds back. It would put him all the way back currently to 14th and move Simpson, Mueller, Morales, and Barron back up. They are able to appeal it, and I'm sure if it is deployed, that's what they would do. But as things stand, again, all off of what we can estimate from watching this, it is still close quarters and treacherous for not just Knowles now, but here Mueller once again going at it. What a move there, power move, back and forth through the horseshoe. Logan Mueller gets by Morales for 11th.
All right, so here comes Logan Mueller now. That's actually for 12th. Yeah, so Max Barron 11th right now. Like you said, the gap, if it is a full drop down for Knowles, will put him behind Max Barron. The worst case scenario for Brock Knowles, he's stuck in a battle right now with Baker and Mercer. And again, yeah, Knowles made up a spot on Baker. The problem is that gap has now grown. So a 13.9 for Brock Knowles, Lyda and Barron at a 13.6 and 5. So they're actually closing that gap. So it's not looking great for Brock Knowles if it is a 5-second drop down, if indeed he has a full push gap, which it looks like he does. It's dragging him before pretty good. And if he cannot overturn it right now, the best case scenario for Brock Knowles, he's leading that group, head forward, head down, you got to push, you got to go. You know you got to drop down.
And the worst part is, again, they've already passed one time in this pack. David Baker had gone around him earlier. He's gone back by David, and now that Fox and Sun machine is back to 7th. Nick Mercer's caught up. Frederick Manning has caught up. We're at the end of the session here, and again, a 5-second ding would just barely put him behind that entire group of Barron, Mueller, Morales, and Simpson. But if they battle on the last lap more than this group does, that could swing it back just enough in the way for Brock Knowles to stay ahead of that penalty and outrun the damage. But we're going to find out sooner rather than later where the gaps will end up, because the timer has hit 0. Chase Buscaglia has led every lap since he's gotten to the lead. Cole Wilson has been more than happy to ride behind him and just stay in the wake of the Macron Motorsports comp cart. Then it is Sawyer Roussel by himself. Ben Gaunt and Jacob Petticord are 4th and 5th. This is then 6, 7, 8, 9 right here. Back to Frederick Manning, and a healthy gap back to Lyda in 10th and Barron in 11th.
So here's the game right now. Brock Knowles, at this point, will not be able to pull away from David Baker. Does Baker go for the move, or does he push him? The gap right now to Max Barron in 11th is 3.9 seconds. The best thing for Brock Knowles at the moment is that Logan Mueller and David Morales are closing in on Max Barron as well. So this is going to get really interesting to see what the gaps look like.
Yeah, and not only that here, they are ultimately all closing on Knowles' group. This group here for 6, 7, 8, 9 are slower than the next pack here. Max Barron has tried to pick it up. You can see there how much that David Morales is pushing. He's gone back past Logan Mueller. They both are digging to get to Barron. And the previous lap around, outside of the pass, they were close and faster than everyone in the back half of the top 10. There could be a lot of movement before the day is done and the grid is finally set for KA Stars due to how closely packed this group is, and if there's any other infractions or penalties that get called in. But the white flag waves now. You can see Buscalia's group with Cole Wilson coming out of turn 2. I think Wilson might have gone around him finally for the lead in the B pre-final. And here for 11th, this could end up being the final transfer. David Morales is through, and now Max Barron is 12th. And even with a penalty for Brock Knowles, he'd need another one, but he is defending regardless. Logan Mueller crosses him up. He's got a nose down low. Mueller for 12th, side by side, he gets by. Here comes Isabella.
This could be exactly what Brock Knowles needed. This fight for 11th and 12th right now could assist the BJR driver. Max Barron, unfortunately, his run for a top 10 finish looks like it's coming to a close here. He's down in 13th now, fighting with Simpson. The rest of this group is split up. So that has now unleashed David Morales. As long as he hasn't lost 5 seconds to Brock Knowles in that fight in the first few corners, he has a chance here.
And they were within 4 last time by. Knowles' group is still good. There's Lyda picking up one more spot here at the end to make sure he's well to the good. Gets by on Frederick Manning. Cole Wilson will win the B pre-final. Buscalia second. Roussel third. Gaunt fourth. Petticord and Mercer 5th, 6th. And then here we go, 7th actually for Mercer. Knowles got back by him, but Knowles is only 3 seconds clear of 11th and 12th, and just barely under 4 seconds ahead of the next group. It put him back to 13.1 away. It would put him just ahead of Isabella Simpson. Provisionally he's in, but it may require an appeal to stay. Frederick Manning, on the unofficial results, gets the last transfer spot out of the B pre-final for KA Stars. It goes Cole Wilson to Buscalia to Roussel, Gaunt, and Jacob Petticord, your top 5. And beyond them, again, so much could change from these unofficial results. I think at least the first 4 should be well safe, though. That many seconds up the road, even a pushback bumper penalty wouldn't drop anyone in the top 5 out of the transfer spots. Further back, these drivers probably won't have anything else to help them. DNFs for Wrigley Keys and James Brassel, they were collected in the first lap incident in turn 5. Freddie Siemens, we saw him get collected battling with Mueller. Brooke Shambo, a DNF, we saw her in the first lap carnage as well. Callahan Peter, Cami Pfister, Will Steele, all out of the B pre-final for KA Stars. But provisionally, Cole Wilson is your winner. We'll take a short break in the action. Not long from now, OKN Jr. will kick things off with the Free to View Mazda Motorsports Pro Show from Newcastle, Indiana. And we are looking forward to hopefully bringing you all that action fast, furious, and maybe just maybe in the dry to the end of the day. We'll see you there.